You pass by them in your local grocery store, maybe the mall. Maybe it was at a local church carnival. There's something familiar about them. You know who they are, but you just can't quite put your finger on it. They're attractive, but not like movie star attractive, or musician attractive, or TV star attractive, or model attractive, or even social media influencer attractive, or YouTube star attractive. Or I'm clearly putting you on this male-oriented TV show to give them something to look at in between clips of video games coverage attractive. Or this reality show is going to test conventional myths found in pop culture in a sort of science-y way kind of attractive. But not like TikTok attractive, but like sort of attractive. Wait, I get it now. You see them in bright-colored clothing on stage and in bright lights. Sometimes you see them standing on a street corner and in broad daylight. Yes, you have seen them on TikTok, but only in this sort of dancing in a way that's trendy yet still business appropriate. And awkward. And yes, when your husband or your wife and your kids go to bed and they turn in early, you quietly invite them into your house for your own secret party. Ladies and gentlemen, it's your hometown hot local television news team beat reporters this week on Nothin Good.
Once again, a wonderful, wonderful intro by the one Dave McDonald.
I wasn't sure what path you were leading us down there, but I'm glad we got there.
We got there.
Yes. Yeah. So I have a question. First and foremost, how's everybody doing?
Pretty good.
Much better now, man.
Good.
2 weeks of antibiotics and whatever cocktail they gave me at the doctor's office has finally done the job.
Yeah, you're sounding better, so we appreciate you.
Yeah, I'm not having to wear a mask around people at this stage, but yeah, much better now, man.
So I have a question another second question for you guys. What do rattlesnakes, people's champions, aguilas, drivers, Legion of Doom, Sunny Days have in common?
Mike Tyson?
No. I think the answer he's looking for is WrestleMania 14.
That's right. We're talking the most transformative, in my opinion, WrestleMania of all.
It's a pretty important
time.
one.
There's a lot to unpack here.
And this is
WrestleMania.
Yeah, there's a really important episode too on a kind of almost a personal level, because now behind the curtain here, actually I don't know, Jeff. Who's your favorite wrestler of all time? Is it Bret Hart?
It is Bret Hart.
You're a smart man. Okay. Also, my favorite wrestler of all time is Bret Hart. But more importantly, Dave here. Who's your favorite professional wrestler, sports entertainer of all time?
Gilbert.
And?
That's the second time you've brought up Gilbert on this show. Not this episode, but on this show. Period. And that's more times than anybody's talked about Gilbert in 20 years.
The fact that he shows up like 7 months later in the chronological order here of the WWE universe. Ladies and gentlemen, is the one, the only Texas Rattlesnake himself, Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Now, the reason I bring this up, and it's really important, is that we've been, participating in the show, creating content for you wonderful, sexy, wonderful, beautiful, sensuous listeners. But I'm pretty sure, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think we've actually talked about a single Steve Austin match.
I don't think we have.
Like Stunning Steve Austin, yes,
yeah.
WCW, but Stone Cold, I don't think we have. And it's weird that we haven't. We've covered a lot of different wrestling over the last over a year, but no Steve Austin. So I feel like this is a really
this is your moment,
oh, man.
I'm so looking forward to listening to Dave really give us give Austin his flowers, because I know you want to.
You know what's really interesting is I invested all of my time into the intro.
Oh.
So
I actually didn't watch the show at all, guys.
You guys are really building this up, and
yeah, you're wait, Stone Cold's on this card?
Wait, what? This isn't WrestleMania 11?
Yeah, this is like one of the situations when I was like early in college and I really built myself up, and after about 2.5 minutes I was just sitting on the bed just like, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so this particular WrestleMania, there's two important things that it's noted for. One, we're going to talk about Stone Cold Steve Austin. But two, going back to Bret Hart, this was the first WrestleMania with no Bret Hart.
In a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In a very long time.
We did have a Hart though.
Yes.
The Hearts were still represented.
The last Hart standing.
Yeah. We did have a little bit of, we still had the Hart action going on in there. So.
And we're going to get there. Now, obviously, with this whole show, and I call the show transformative, because this is Steve Austin's night, if there was ever a night. And this is fresh off. This is the first. Well, I guess you can count the Rumble, which is we're gonna get to that too. But this is this is the second major pay-per-view after the Montreal Screwjob.
Yep.
And so the echoes of that night are still kind of lingering, obviously with the angle between Triple H and Owen Hart, but with Shawn Michaels,
who
is
Michaels
in his prime at this point. My man was in some shape, like he was ready to roll. He was ready to go. Right.
He was all business
but
too.
He was injured.
He was horribly injured.
And he injured himself at the casket match with The Undertaker, the Royal Rumble that same year. And I
just 2 months before.
Yeah, that match, I watched that match live, and I remember the spot where he supposedly injured his back, and it didn't look like shit. It didn't look like it should have done anything.
Yeah.
But now, we're not going to go down the rabbit hole. At least I'm not. You guys can if you want. Whether or not, how severe it was. Because Michaels was known for taking his ball and going home. Maybe feigning an injury, knee injury. Maybe not wanting to drop a title to Bret Hart the year previous, and that caused a whole lot of issues, which led us to where we were. Because if you think about it, here's the question. If Montreal didn't happen, would Steve Austin have been in the main event, or would it have been Bret? Because I'm pretty sure it would have been Bret and Shawn. Potentially, at least.
Yeah. There's definitely opportunity there.
Yeah, but
that was missed.
What happened. Michaels was notorious for, if you look back, prior to him coming back, and look at his body of work, and I don't have the stats in front of me, but when you get a chance in the audience, do yourself a favor, look at how many times Michaels dropped the title. Clean. Not as many times as you think, considering how many belts he's held. And there's a reason for that, because what is his notable quotes? I don't lay down for anybody.
Well, he only was champion 4 times, wasn't he? Like, officially?
Heavyweight, yes.
Yeah. So, which is kind of crazy to think that when you look back on the body of work and you look at the people that have shaped wrestling over the course of the last 20, 25 years, and as we've done recently on previous episodes, just a recent episode on this podcast, I mean, how many Shawn Michaels matches were we talking about when it came to favorite matches of all time, and ones we like almost purposefully omitted because we didn't want to spend all this time talking about Shawn Michaels.
Yeah. Well, there's also too, if you look at the history of wrestling. So in the early days, the title didn't change hands very often.
Right.
And then it changed hands a lot, and then they go through these cycles. So then, in this era, it didn't change very often. And then it started changing. Now we have, 15-time champions and stuff. And you're talking about John Cena and, that generation. And now today,
you got Roman.
It hasn't changed in a long time.
And you figure even before Roman in his historical run, I mean, Lesnar was champion for quite a while.
Yeah.
Punk was champion for over 400 days.
So now and I like that though. Like, even though a big part of like my formative years as a fan when I was young, titles changed hands often.
Yeah.
I prefer the long title reigns, and some people would say
it adds a little more credibility to the
it does.
belt when you look at the title runs.
Well, Bruno was champ for like 15 years or something crazy like that, right?
Yeah.
And it meant something. If you could topple Bruno, that meant you were the man.
Yeah, and I mean during those runs too. I mean it was a little different. They used to defend their titles on regular house shows.
Yeah, there weren't a lot of TV.
But
programs.
now it's like, no, I'm gonna wrestle 6 matches this year.
Mm-hmm. And get paid a lot of money.
A shit ton.
Okay.
As is John Cena with Austin Theory.
God. I can't wait for that. I'm not a fan of Austin Theory or whatever they're calling him these days. I think he's Austin
he's
Theory
the chosen
again.
one.
He's got a great name.
Every time they try this chosen one business, it doesn't work.
It doesn't stick because it's not believable.
No.
It did
When?
It didn't, but
It did, but it didn't.
no, because they just keep going back to Drew McIntyre, because I remember the whole Drew McIntyre being the chosen one and that
didn't
whole
work.
thing. But he needed to go and come back. I mean, now everybody loves Drew McIntyre, and
Yeah, I mean, I'm really enjoying how he's facing off against Roman Reigns for the heavyweight.
No, Gunther.
Oh, wait, that's right. That he's not. I forgot.
His name doesn't even come up in the conversation that often.
And it's unfortunate because he's an animal.
He
He's
is.
a great look. He's great in the ring.
He's great. He's good on the
He's a
mic.
fine promo.
He's good on the mic.
But the problem is, he's a giant in a land of giants right now.
yeah.
He doesn't stand out in a weird way, and he should.
I think a big part, too, of Drew McIntyre is that he got his chance at the absolute worst time
Good call, yeah.
you could get your chance.
That's fair, yeah.
Because Drew McIntyre was doing everything he was doing in front of a sea of monitors in the Performance Center for about a year and a half. And, the time that he should have been in Raymond James Stadium in Tampa headlining WrestleMania.
There's a lot to be said for the draw you get from a live crowd.
Yeah, and the opportunity that he had to really give to those fans, because I mean, you guys both know that the wrestling is all about the connection that the people have with the wrestlers.
Yeah.
There's nothing greater than that. They never got a chance to truly embrace him, and vice versa. So, in that aspect, I kind of feel bad that that kind of happened. But I still give Drew some flowers.
Oh, man, and as
Justifiably
well you should.
so,
He's
yeah.
great. Again, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer for sure. But right now, it's just, and you brought up a different point that I was trying to hammer in. It's less about the whole COVID era when they had this no audience. It's more Drew McIntyre. His timing was off. If he'd have come into the WWF for the gimmick he has now, back then,
Yeah.
it would have worked.
Yeah.
But he's in a sea of Brock Lesnar's and Omos, or whatever his name is, and Braun Strowman's and Roman Reigns. He's just another giant, big guy with long, slick hair with a beard. He's just,
Yeah,
he doesn't stand out to
Yeah.
me.
yeah. It's wrestling.
No shade to Drew, though.
No,
But
no.
it's the truth.
He might be in your back. He might be in Jeff's backyard right now. chopping
with his
wood.
Claymore
He might.
waiting.
He's got a Claymore. He's just sitting there on a scoop that Jeff didn't know that he had in the back, and he's just with a stone.
Yeah.
A wet
With
stone.
a wet stone.
A wet stone. Just
Wet
like going
stone.
over that.
So wet.
So how
Is
wet?
it so wet?
Real wet.
Oh man.
So
It is now.
now, before we get to the first match, what are we drinking here, folks?
I'll go first. Since we're talking about WrestleMania, I brought myself a Steve Weiser, so Stone Cold Steve Austin Broken Skull IPA.
That's a solid call.
It seemed fitting for
It's
what we're
very
talking
fitting.
about.
It don't get much more
Yeah.
fitting.
No, doesn't.
Mac?
Well, so I'm doing a little bit of a sentimental beer today, everybody. Today I got a Miller Lite here, and the reason I got a Miller Lite is that it was my dad's birthday just a few days ago, and my dad, for those that knew him or maybe have heard his legend, was a personality plus. And he passed away a few years ago, so every time around his birthday, always make sure to keep a Miller Lite handy at the house. So thought I would bring that to the podcast today and drink it in his honor. So
I will drink to Jimmy Mack.
Yeah.
we
Any chance I get.
Yeah, we got the Jimmy
Mad
Mack
respect.
Absolutely.
going here. So yeah, Miller Lite for Jimmy Mack today.
Nice.
It's a really good reason, because otherwise, I don't know why the hell you'd ever
No,
do that.
no, there is
That's-
We were
literally
judging so hard
It's the
until
only
you
pure
told us.
reason.
There's literally no reason to possibly have it. Now, with all that being said, on my dad's birthday, we went to his local watering hole. It was the Pub and Pizza, as my
Yep.
dad famously knew it. It has since converted to a Caliente, which is a pizza and draft house here in Pittsburgh. And my mom, my sister, myself, and Steph all went and got some pizzas and got a couple of Miller Lights. And Barbie Mack is not a beer drinker in any way, shape, or form. But we got a couple little like tasters, glasses, and everything. And Barbie Mack was putting down some Miller Lite. And at the end of the evening, she just goes, "I'm not really a beer person, but this Miller Lite it's not half bad.
Oh, Lord.
That's a slippery slope.
And
Barb.
I just you know what, it's not Tequila Mom, but it's light
It'll
enough.
do, yeah.
It's light enough. So,
Golly.
but yeah, it was a fun night had by all in
That's
that
awesome.
in that
Good.
capacity.
Yeah.
So
Everyone at this table, and those even not here, we all love Jimmy Mack. So
yeah,
nothing
Good
but
man.
respect for
Jimmy
that
Mack
guy.
on that one.
I am drinking, and I don't know how to pronounce it. If it's Trogs or Trogs, is it Trog?
Trogs.
There we go. Trogs Sunshine Pilsner, nice and light, not Miller Light, but light.
Yeah, it's a
For-
good
for
spring
a
beer.
wonderful-
We're in spring now.
Yeah, we are springing forward, folks, in 2022.
Thank God at this point, man. Once once the calendar turns over to March, I'm like, all right, fuck it, let's just get spring going and get the weather nicer and done with because for those, a lot of people that listen to the show are in the Pittsburgh area, but for those of you in France or Australia, United Kingdom, Netherlands, India,
We see you, India.
we see you, India. You know who we don't see? Peru. Still waiting on you, Peru. I'm not giving up.
I don't know.
I'm not
I
giving
don't
up.
think they're coming
I think
back.
they
not
gave
giving
up
up.
on us.
Yeah.
I'm not giving up. But between November and April, it's basically nothing but gray and brown in Pittsburgh. Because it's when the winter hits. So looking forward to some green and some sunshine, some blue skies and everything. And yeah, so let's go spring. Let's do it. You mentioned something earlier, Jones, when we were talking about the importance of this WrestleMania, and you mentioned how it's an opportunity for me to give my flowers to the one, the only Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yes.
And you're like, we haven't really talked about Stone Cold in
Not
the
a lot,
podcast.
no.
But, dear listeners, there's a reason for that. Because when we don't have the mics going, we're talking a lot about Stone Cold Steve Austin, because we also talk, because it's almost hard sometimes not to talk about Stone Cold Steve Austin without talking about the importance of the relationship with Bret Hart. And was done in a previous episode, available in the archives, by the way, on the Montreal Screwjob, we will be doing an entire episode, possibly 2, maybe even 3.
It's a whole
It's
series
going to be
we're
like
gonna
a
do.
series on Stone Cold Steve Austin and Bret Hart.
So I mean, we mentioned this forever ago.
Yeah.
That we wanted to do it, and eventually this long
Someday we'll
idea.
actually do it.
I have the outline already written. It's in Google Docs for you guys to check out, but it's already there, and it spans the entirety of their feud, which is not a lot,
Right.
actually. But we cover things before and after.
Yeah.
The importance of what led up to this and what the situation is, the ramifications. I mean, I was just watching a interview with Austin from like a year or so ago, and he was talking about and we're going off on a whole tangent, but this is Austin related.
This is the show. I mean, if you guys came here thinking we're going to stay on topic,
he was
Fuck you.
He's always very complimentary of Bret Hart, always. And when he had him on his podcast, however many years ago, you could tell there's a lot of respect, a lot of love.
Yeah.
But he was just asked about Bret Hart and his thoughts on him, and you never hear Austin be very complimentary of any wrestler. Very few, unless they were friends. But how he views Bret Hart, and he's like, without Bret Hart, there would not have been a Stone Cold Steve Austin. He handpicked me coming back and said, I want to work with this guy, because he knew they could make some money.
Right.
And he's just like, the fact that there's a lot of other wrestlers who hate on Bret Hart and like, oh, Bret's bitter, blah blah blah. I mean, man's been through the ringer, lost a lot of family, lost a lot of friends. He's last man standing, if you really think about the Hart Foundation.
it's a very publicly, famously, Canadianly wrestling family.
Yeah. But I'd be probably a little bitter too. But Austin is very complimentary of Bret and the importance that he had on his career, and so it's so important, in fact, that we want to do that feud justice, because it needs to be explored week to week, Raw to Raw, show to show, match to match, and it's going to be a whole ass undertaking that we're currently not ready for. I need to have Noah on it.
Well, yeah, that's
the problem.
That's imperative. Yeah, at this stage.
But we'll get him there, you son of a bitch. I know you're listening.
We almost had him.
We almost
Oh, we almost had him,
it was
everybody.
close, it was close.
We intentionally didn't give you a preview of the next couple of episodes on the last episode we recorded, because we had a couple things in the air. We were trying to bring in that his sweet, seductory sultry voice back onto the podcast. A little bit of nipple rubbing.
There probably would have been a lot.
There probably been a lot.
There's a lot of like makeup nipple play.
I'm sure there's an awful lot of I'm sure there's an awful lot of energy that he's got pent up, that he can't quite release around the family.
No, giving it all to the listeners.
Yeah, exactly. So we famously have avoided a lot of Stone Cold talk on the podcast just because of plans we have for Stone Cold. But I think it's important to kind of note here as well, Jones, when you're talking about Stone Cold and you're talking about, who he talks about and, a lot of times who he doesn't talk about and how complimentary he is and how few people. It's because when you achieve a level of success that he did and the time that he did it and to the level at which he did, you have to have a mentality that you guys are in shit. That's the mentality you have to be that guy, I think, for that long. And, I think that's ingrained in him, which is why he achieved what he achieved. That was a lot of that character of Stone Cold was Steve Austin. It was his, who he was. And I think a lot of times when wrestlers really get to that point where the fans accept them and believe them, which going back to Austin Theory, when you saw the promo that Cena cut on him a couple of weeks ago, leading into him accepting the match, he kind of said to Theory that very concept. Is like, when you're pushing and you're forcing and your real personality doesn't come out, these fans, they're not going to believe you.
Yeah, they know it.
They know it. They know you're full of shit. They know you're full of shit, which is the worst thing that fans can have.
Then he told him he had a small dick.
And then he tapped it.
Yeah.
Oh, he ball tapped him.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But he didn't find... But he probably does have a small dick because Theory didn't really react. Like, if I get ball tapped, if I'm on national television... Listen, if I'm on national television and I get ball tapped and I'm a fucking professional wrestler, I'm dropping to the ground and I'm fucking selling that like I just got shot in the nut. And you're gonna literally seriously, like, I'm gonna lay there. People are gonna have to. The ref's gonna have to come out and put the X up. They're gonna have to bring a stretcher out for that ball tap because I'm gonna sell to the audience that my nuts are so fucking huge that that's what happened.
Okay, well, good. So
Glad I got that out. Glad I got that.
Let's get to the show, as we are now probably 20+ minutes in to this episode. All right, so we have the first match, which is always fascinating. First of all, the intro's fantastic. Brings me back, man. Brings me right back to 1998. And we have the Tag Team Battle Royal, which is funny because there's so many damn teams. They just started at the end of the entrances.
Yeah, so all the teams were out there except for the one surprise team, which was the Legion of Doom.
Well, they brought one team in right before. Did you guys watch it on Peacock?
Oh, yeah.
There was the one team and then the surprise team that they kind of brought in.
One thing before the match, though, so we've talked about how terrible live bands typically are at these big pay-per-views. So they had the DX band.
They did.
And the DX band actually played America the Beautiful or something, and got booed.
Because I didn't see it, Jeff, on the telecast.
Apparently they got booed so bad that it was removed from all digital copies of this pay-per-view, all home video release versions of this pay-per-view.
I watched the show live. Why do I not remember that? Because I scrubbed it from my memory.
It was that bad.
So there was that before we got to the surprise return of LOD 2000.
Listen, I don't know about
as they would become to known.
I don't know about you guys, but I was a big mark for Legion of Doom.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
they're so fucking cool.
Yeah. But to watch LOD2, I remember just marking out, seeing, like, new music, and it's Sunny. And listen, Sunny is money. Now, but Sunny now owes money. But Sunny, at the time, was money, right? God, she was something to look at.
Does Sunny owe money?
Yeah.
She's all kinds of shit.
Have you not known the what's been going on with this
So
woman for years?
Do you know how you blocked out the DX band doing the America the Beautiful and the Star Spangled Banner?
Sunny.
No, I blocked out.
There's no way to block that out.
No, I didn't block out Sunny. I blocked out any bad things that happened to Sunny after WWE.
She killed a guy.
Did she really?
In a car accident.
No shit.
She was under their influence, I'm pretty sure.
No.
She's in jail still, I'm pretty
Is
sure.
she really?
She's been in and out of jail for years.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, she does not look good.
I did not know that.
Put on a lot of weight. And to be fair, that weight on her doesn't look terrible. She's a pretty lady, but this isn't what this is about. It's about the demons that she has.
Oh my god.
That she has been spiraling since Chris Candido died. Really.
Okay.
That was the love of her life.
Right.
But
I do remember that.
There's stories behind that too, but I don't know those stories well enough.
Yeah.
You watch.
Yeah, we're not
going to
get false information.
Oh my god, poor Sonny.
Yeah. Oh yeah. She's been having issues now for years.
I did not know that.
And just last
Yeah,
year,
she's had a rough go of it. Yeah.
That explains why she hasn't been on any of the recent Rumbles or anything.
She ain't gonna be.
No.
Probably not. No.
No. I don't think she's not in the Hall of Fame, and
No.
Might not be.
I feel like she probably won't be until she's dead. So she can't do
Her
it
outfit was great in this pay-per-view, though.
Oh man, she looked fantastic.
No arguments there.
And the funny thing is, it's unfortunate. A thing about the Legion of Doom, the Road Warriors, is that back in the day when they first made their debut and they came up through the AWA, made their way down south, how over they were. There's the Road Warriors pop that people always talk about. That you didn't hear a crowd response like the Road Warriors coming out.
They're huge.
And the WWF, once they made it to the big stage, Vince's machine did not know what to do with them.
Right.
Not properly.
It was too much, yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a lot to be said about that, but this is a perfect example of that. They're coming in. They were, I think they came in like 97. I think, or maybe late 96, or 97. They may have had a title run. I don't know. And then they had a split, and I remember that split. They brawled a little bit.
Yeah, it was very public. Before this pay-per-view, the last time we saw them, they were, going to blows on each other.
Now here they are with.
Whoa. Jeff, when they're going to, can we paint a picture real quick, Jeff? All right, just
do it.
When they were going to blows
After it came out, I was like, yeah, I probably should have worded that differently.
when they were going to blows when they're going to blows on each other, right?
All over each other,
right?
Yes.
All over. Were they wearing the shoulder pads?
Nothing but the shoulder pads.
Man. They were LOD.
You have no idea what they were doing with those spikes after that.
It was an LOD Winnie the Pooh situation, right? All top, nothing on the bottom.
So, what's interesting about this match, too, if you look at all the different teams, how many future stars are in this team? Too Cool is in,
the first time they teamed together.
Is it the first time?
Yeah.
No shit. I like that. And then you figure a year and a half later, they're one of the biggest tag teams the WWF has at the time. JBL's in this match. I know you love that, Dave.
I noticed it immediately. But he was still Bradshaw at this point.
Yeah.
I strangely have a fond appreciation for Bradshaw.
How can you not?
It's just when he changed.
But when
back to
he's JBL and he's pumping Mama Juama, whatever the fuck that thing was, forever. Oh God, the rage, rage.
And you had the Rock and Roll Express. You had,
4 members of the nation.
Yeah. Two sets of the nation in there.
But this was also kind of like the tail end of the '97 faction wars, because Los Boricuas were kind of sprinkled in. The members of the DOA were sprinkled in, and they were just kind of this time that time the following year they were not around. It was just the very end of whatever '97 was.
Yeah.
The gang warfare era of the WWF.
Well, do you think that? No, this is an honest question here too. Also, the Headbangers when there, I had to have that out there. Did the WWE get away from factions because WCW was so heavily in with factions at that point? Because when you have the NWO on one channel, what faction are you going to have on WWF that's going to even compare? And if you're trying to, are you not just doing DC versus Marvel, where it's, we're going to have a Captain America versus Iron Man movie, and then DC is oh wait, we got to rush Batman v Superman, even though nobody fucking cares because there was no build-up when Civil War had 7-8 years of character build-up and relationships that forged that. Do you try to stay away from that from a booking perspective?
I think they were, trying to lean into that with the Nation and DX both running at the same time, but outside of that, there definitely could be some merit to that. The NWO is a hard thing to compete against.
You couldn't. There were NWO signs in that fucking crowd, there
were signs in the crowd. I would say that it's none of us really know. Obviously, we weren't in the writing room, but I would hazard to guess that I think less about what WCW was doing, and more it ran its course. Because when the Los Boricuas, the Nation Domination, Disciples of Apocalypse, they were around before DX was a thing. Although none of them were all main eventing, it was a thing that they were doing. They were just putting things against the wall to try to push against WCW, to try to get ahead of the ratings war,
Yeah.
to try to make money. But with the exception of Mark Henry and Dwayne Johnson, how many stars came out of all those factions? Just those two.
Right.
Right? But it was a way to get people on TV.
And
it was a way to get people, an interesting... Because back in 97, the Vince Russo, Vince McMahon era of creative, it was a lot of get as much on TV as possible, throw things against the wall, see what sticks. And it was a lot of... And I missed that period of Raw where everything felt like everything was chaotic. Anything could happen at any given moment. But I think it's less about what WWE was doing, more about... I mean, it'd been about a year, almost, of those gangs. I feel like we'd run the course, and obviously the Nation was the front runner of all of that.
Little did that version of Mark Henry know that in a few years later he was going to father a hand.
One day we're going to
Nobody saw that coming.
We're going to get to a show where I can really give Mark Henry his flowers when he had his heel run as heavyweight champion and SmackDown. It was fucking amazing,
It was.
I didn't respect it and appreciate it then the way I do now. Because sometimes I'll watch a clip and I'm like, dude was he was like no joke.
Yeah.
Like he was
legit.
a bad guy.
Yes, he was.
There was no redeeming quality. And who was going to get in that man's face outside of John Cena? No one. And maybe the Undertaker player.
John Cena lifted him.
John Cena lifted a Big Show and Edge on his
We
back,
saw it live.
and I still don't believe it happened.
We saw that live. That's still, to me, in everything that I've seen in professional wrestling, that still to me is the most impressive thing I've ever seen. Is John Cena, because that's from that point forward he is Superman.
Yeah.
Like there's no
He
taking
is
that away
scary
from
strong.
him. That he lifted like 650 pounds just like it was nothing, and then flipped them.
Yeah, because
And I always think back when I listen to Hogan tell stories about when he slammed the Giant, and more importantly how his body felt after he slammed the Giant. He's like, things did not feel normal for weeks after that. Even like as it happened, he felt things in his body just popping. And to think John Cena basically took more than that and was just...
Bullshit.
Yeah?
Listen, you can only really listen to half of 32% of what Hogan fucking says.
And that's being generous.
First of all right, Hogan likes to pretend that no one knows that he had a career before the WWF or the WWF. That motherfucker was slamming Andre the Giant before they were even in the same promotion together up in New York. I used to have a VHS of them fighting each other in I don't know, it might have been 1980, 1979. Hogan slammed him then. It wasn't a big deal, but it was a big deal because it was on pay-per-view. But that Hogan, oh brother, I felt everything tear up my rib. No, fuck you. No, you didn't. You felt fine. You've done it before.
Shattered my entire vision.
You gotta listen. When Hogan talks, you have to put a filter on.
Why he doesn't?
We've learned.
Facts.
But okay, so great opener, great match. I mean, it was chaotic as all hell. Usually,
It was.
Watching a battle royal start with everybody in the match.
Yeah, so there was 5 minutes of Legion of Doom in the ring, showboating, and then they ring the bell, and all the guys jump in.
Yeah.
And there's no real. They didn't set the stage of oh, by the way, here's all the teams that are in it.
No,
so it was just
there.
immediate chaos and everybody in the ring, and I was just looking at the chaos that's happening in the sea of guys, I'm like, who the fuck are half these people?
I know there was
So much.
there was a point where I had to pause the screen and pull up some stuff online. I'm like, all right, who the fuck am I watching?
Yeah, right.
Because some of these I don't really remember. Oh, Kurgan's there. Okay, I got Kurgan.
Or he's barking at people.
Well, I mean, that's basically all he did in his wrestling career. I don't really
That
know
was the
that he
Truth
did
Commission.
much
That's
of.
what it was called, the Truth Commission. Another gang, there was. Listen, the WWF was flush with factions in '97 into '98.
There were a lot.
Too many.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a great match. I thought it was enjoyable. The crowd was hot, but it's WrestleMania, and the WrestleMania crowd is typically always hot anyhow.
Got a couple comments about that when we get to a couple matches here later on.
Okay.
The crowd in general is sort of interesting because if you look at, in 98, there were no cell phones,
Nope.
Right.
right? They had camera guys all around the outside of the ring, like literally
yeah.
leaning on the ring, which you don't see any of that today.
Right.
The barricades were just steel gates.
I love
There's
the
no
steel
padding
gates.
like there is
Yeah.
today. They're far less forgiving.
Mm-hmm.
It's just an interesting time. Like when you look back and you're like, man, it's so different.
Yeah.
But the crowd, like, they were hot for LOD
Oh,
for
big
sure.
time.
Yeah.
And so,
And you know, the writing was on the wall. They were the only ones who got a grand entrance. That was their big return. They were going to win. So it wasn't like, oh man, I'm shocked that LOD is the last man standing,
Yeah.
the last team standing.
so yeah, 8 minutes, 19 seconds. We can't get back. Now we are on to the Taka Michinoku versus Aguila match.
Taka Michinoku.
So,
Second time we're talking about Taka.
wow. You know, it's funny. When I think of light heavyweight or cruiserweight, I always think of WCW, obviously.
Well, yeah.
And it's really unfortunate. It sucks that the WWF never really committed to it. And we've had this
Well,
conversation
that's
before.
Vince.
But it'd been great if they had, because the things they could have done with Taka as the centerpiece and really pushed that division forward. But Vince wasn't a fan, and it is what it is. But the match was great. I really enjoyed it.
It was a good match.
You know, they really put their best foot forward to impress the crowd.
Yeah.
You know, and Aguila, it's funny. I was watching the match, and I'm thinking to myself, I wonder if Mac thinks this is psychosis.
No. No. I knew it wasn't Psychosis. It was on that one. Yeah, it was. It was truthfully, I think it was one of the better matches of the night. I don't know about you guys. You know, going back and watching it again, I felt a lot of very different things watching this as a 40-year-old man, as I did when I was a 15-year-old boy when this thing first came out, right? And it was easily one of those things where I think a lot of the pay-per-view was almost a little underwhelming to me watching it back again, in terms of just some of the match quality, some of the things that just we're kind of used to seeing now in WWE and some of the matches we've already kind of covered.
Right.
But I thought this was a very solid match. Overall, in terms of some of the things we got in the pay-per-view.
Yeah, I agree. And it was a very fast match in terms of the action and
Yeah,
in
it's
terms
like
of how
5
long it
minutes,
lasted.
that's it.
Yeah.
And you were mentioning the lack of focus on the light heavyweight title. This was the only pay-per-view or the only WrestleMania that they actually competed for the light heavyweight
It's
title.
unfortunate, man.
First and only time, which was really weird to me when I was like looking back at things, and I was like, man, they really could have got a lot more out of that over the years than they did. But it was a good match. Taka Michinoku is super fun to watch.
I love the Michinoku driver. Still to
Michinoku
this day.
driver, and not only the fact that it's just how good the move is, it's fun to say.
Yeah,
You know,
Yeah.
the Michinoku driver.
You know the best part about the Michinoku driver, and that it belongs to a light heavyweight, a cruiserweight, a high flyer, if you will, is that if you stop, I really want you to stop and think about this. How many top tier cruiserweights, light heavyweights over the years that we've watched, from 96, 97 and on, their finish was a high flying move.
Mm-hmm.
Almost all of them.
Yeah.
But you know whose wasn't? Taka.
That's right.
His move looked like it was going to put your ass
Oh,
down,
yeah.
period.
Yeah.
With the exception of Dean Malenko, whose finish was a fucking submission hold.
Yeah.
Who would also put you down. The Michinoku driver looked violent, it looked hard-hitting, and he didn't have to leave his center of gravity. You know what I mean?
Right. No, and we always talk about the validity of finishing moves in wrestling, and which ones we like, which ones we don't. Ones that you can do basically in any situation. Ones that you can do that doesn't have to have a build up or anything, and that really kind of plays into that. Speaking of Dean Malenko, I once went past Dean Malenko at the grocery store to get a stalk of broccoli, and he submitted me.
You loved every second of that, too.
When I came to, I did. In the process of.
He submitted me.
Yeah.
He submitted
Yeah.
me.
Woke up in the middle of the produce aisle, not knowing what the hell
You're like,
happened.
wait a minute.
This
Yeah,
is just.
It's weird when you say that a man submitted you.
Is
in
it
general.
though?
I mean,
Is
it's too late. It's already out there
Yeah.
now.
I mean,
you can't put
we
that
can
shit
edit
back
this
in
out.
the
Do you want to
file.
rewind back to this to some of the things that you were talking about with
Nope.
LOD? Yeah.
But yeah, great match. Taka's music still slaps to this day.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's a great theme.
It's in the top 20.
It's a lot of things that Taka was a lot of things that WWE traditionally just doesn't like to push. Lighter, smaller wrestlers, wrestlers from Japan. wrestlers that can like really wrestle.
And wrestlers who don't speak English.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. He was a lot of those things.
Yeah. I mean, thankfully his body spoke for itself, and he
Yeah.
still wrestles. I think he still wrestles. And I think he teaches too.
Yeah. You could tell this match took place in the 90s because JR dropped a Pearl Harbor reference. Which is like, oh, did he just say that?
It's December 7th. Ironic enough.
Um,
I love the notes on that. Like, if you go online and like read through some of the articles about this, it's just like the incident went largely unnoticed, only causing a slight stir in the wrestling community.
Yeah, you know.
Slight stir. So we have. I like to maintain that this little quick backstage segment with The Rock and Jennifer Flowers, it's like The Rock's coming out party, right?
Oh.
What an asshole that guy.
I love it.
But it's so good.
He's
so good at it.
full third person.
Yeah.
Full third person. And that's the best version of The Rock, is just where he's not a real person. He's
Yeah.
a caricature of a person.
Yeah.
And I just love, he dropped if you smell what I'm cooking. It's just little things, Rock is becoming The Rock. And we just, last wrestling episode, we talked about some of our favorite matches. And, The Rock 98.
Yep.
The ladder match with Triple H was one of your top matches. And this is that year. Rock is coming into his own.
We've spent a lot of time talking about Rock coming into his own in like out of chronological order.
It's weird, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
It all ties together
Yeah,
eventually.
this is what, our third pay-per-view that we've talked about from 98? I think.
I think you're
Maybe.
Yeah. Well, the second one that we've covered, we've mentioned other matches from 98. But yeah, this was, WrestleMania's end of March, and then we had SummerSlam, and then we had the King of the Ring that we talked about as well.
And I don't want to spend too much time on it, but just the fact that they gave him a segment to get himself over with the biggest audience he's ever been a part of. Like, you
Yeah.
figure WrestleMania the previous year, it was Intercontinental title match. His dad was involved. I think the Sultan was involved. WrestleMania 13. No one talks about that.
Yeah, he was still finding his way.
But this was their opportunity to introduce the People's Champ to the world, and I think it worked, and it paid dividends.
And
Yeah,
they started.
he interrupted her right away, saying, "No, it's the People's Intercontinental
I
Champion."
love it.
Well, because and they carried that over with the commentary when we get to the match with Rock and Shamrock, where I think it was like JR said something, and then Lawler interrupted him and said, "No, it's the People's." Like, you make sure to say that, and
they gotta sell it.
Yeah. I want to talk about that match, but because I have a lot to say about that match, I don't want to.
Oh, we gonna
jump
get
in.
there.
So, speaking of matches, let's go on to the next, the European title match. The challenger, Owen Hart, taking on the champion, Hunter Hearst Helmsley of Degeneration
Yeah,
X.
this was before he was officially Triple H.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And China.
And China.
And
Who's
China.
a goddamn badass, man.
She is.
Listen, you ain't fucking with her.
No.
She'd knock your ass
She's
out.
intimidating as fuck.
She wore an outfit that was basically made entirely of handcuffs just to get handcuffed to Sergeant Slaughter, which is what she did to him later that night.
Okay, then.
Oh.
Allegedly.
That's
Allegedly.
what they say. The best part about this match is looking at, this, I keep going back to this pay-per-view being such a transformative year, but you look at where all these different characters are, these personalities, these gimmicks are now. WrestleMania, the reset day, where everything changes the next night on Raw. Where they are 8 months later. Everything is so drastically different. I think Undertaker's a full-on heel by that point, or close to, 8 months later. Pretty sure he is. I think he's sacrificing fucking people and shit almost. Austin is the man.
Right.
Michaels is gone. The Rock is almost a top 2 babyface. Just underneath Hunter, who's basically the number 2 babyface.
Ken Shamrock can't stay off the cocaine.
Actually, if this is like 6 or 7 months later, we're talking almost Survivor Series. So
Yeah.
things have changed.
Yeah.
A lot.
Right? And
The landscape
I
has
love
changed.
how different this is.
Well, and it had to be, because you figure in the course of, 3 months, WWE, or about 5 months, WWE lost 2 of their 3 tentpoles at that point. Brett is gone, and he's in WCW, and WCW is flourishing, right?
That was
And then
during the Goldberg streak.
Yep.
and then you've got Shawn getting injured to the point that at that stage he was done wrestling. That was it. The surgery hadn't existed yet to fix him. And when you kind of talk about how he had 2 herniated discs plus a third one that was basically crushed, and he fucking took some of the bumps he took in that
We
match.
gonna get to that.
We're gonna get
We'll
to that.
get to
WWE was in survival mode. They had one, possibly two, that they could build around. And that was
Right.
Undertaker, and God, they're lucky Stone Cold worked, and that he was able to kind of carry it at that point. Because if he didn't, the rest of the Stone Cold's run gave the rest of the roster time to catch up, so that WWE could really
He kept them afloat.
He
big
did.
time.
Oh my God, for sure. Because as I would argue that as over as NWO was and everything they were doing in WCW, Stone Cold was more.
Listen, Steve Austin's the greatest. He's the greatest wrestler of all time.
Yeah.
And not the best wrestler of all
No.
time, but he's the greatest wrestler of all
Right.
time. Nobody has done. I mean, you could say Hogan with the rock and roll and wrestling phase in the '80s. You could say, the John Cena and his no. Steve Austin. Steve fucking Austin, who came out of effectively nowhere from WCW and became a household name in months after, Austin 316, which was, I don't know how ad-lib that was, but it's fucking still sticks to me to this day.
He came up with that, and then that's the bottom line because Stone Cold said so, like in the same promo, right?
No.
No.
That was
No,
later.
he did two of them. It was Austin 316.
That was King of the Ring.
That was King. Well, there was another one in King of the Ring that he came up with at the same time. I thought it was.
I don't know when he started saying the bottom line, but I don't believe
yeah,
it was
it
after
was
that.
same
There
show.
were two. I'm gonna have to go back and look, but there were two things that were Austin tent poles that he came up with on that pay-per-view.
So speaking
Yeah.
of Owen Hart versus Triple H, right?
Yeah.
We got to get back to this match.
Right.
We're gonna get to Austin. We go let you give him all his flowers you want to give.
I'm starting to get geared up now.
So I love the context of this match because again, Montreal Screwjob is still echoing in the background.
Right.
It happened. It was not a work, Noah. It wasn't. But it happened.
It was work.
And it was not a fucking work.
I was
no
on,
one benefits.
I wasn't
from
on that
this.
episode. I have opinions.
Listen, I will ask you this then: who benefited from any of it?
Loogies.
Yeah, loogies everywhere.
Loogies everywhere benefited. People did not spit in their boss's face until that night, and then afterwards, all over the place.
Loogies
People,
everywhere.
household
people
thing,
were
yeah.
people were just gearing up
Listen,
to just shoot one at their
One
boss.
day we'll revisit Montreal, but I maintain the biggest reason why I think it was a full-on, shoot is because if the plan is for there to be some sort of end game to this, somebody has to look good. Somebody has to come out on this, and no one looked good. No one looked good.
Didn't say they executed it well. I mean, sometimes
That's
you
a
can have all the
big
plans
deal.
and then just that one didn't work. Let's go the other direction next time.
There are people who think that the plan was always for Brett to just come back and no. That shit went bad. That went sideways because people were being egotistical and greedy. Brett and Sean were not playing nice together, and then bad things happened. It's unfortunate that it happened, but it happened. And then people are like, oh, Owen died and that changed everything. Like, no. Brett wasn't going to fucking come back. He spat at Vince. He loogied. He and shot that sumbitch right at his face.
Yeah, he went deep on that one.
I just maintain that, there's no logical reason for the Montreal Screwjob to take place.
Yeah, this was the Montreal Screwjob sidekick match, basically.
Kinda.
Yeah.
And
When you put it that
fascinatingly
way.
enough.
That's
Yeah.
accurate. Yes.
But yeah, it was a great match. Two very capable wrestlers who know how to do it, who work really well together.
They do work really well together.
And I think, Owen, it's weird watching Owen Hart sometimes. I hadn't watched an Owen Hart match in a while.
It's been a hot
I'm
minute,
just sitting
yeah.
and I'm watching what he could have done. But, I'm not one of those people who say oh, he could have been heavyweight champion. I mean, yeah, maybe he could have been, but Owen Hart is not, in my mind, not heavyweight champion guy. He doesn't need to be. Owen Hart's a very capable, excellent wrestler, great promo, great character. He can be a heel, he can be a babyface. All Owen needed to be was just in the mix. He never needed to be heavyweight champion. He's one of those wrestlers
Yeah.
who just
Yeah.
don't need
He
to
could be King of the Ring, but not heavyweight
He's
champion.
the King of Hearts.
Yeah.
He's the Black Heart. That's right.
So the build up to this match was, there was a bit of a feud going on between Triple H and China and Owen. China beat the shit out of Owen with this cast on his leg. So
It was a
they were
walking
working.
boot.
They were working the.
It was a walking boot.
They were working the angle, the
Call that a
injury
cam
angle.
boot.
Yeah. So the stipulation was China could be there, but she had to get handcuffed to Sergeant Slaughter. Apparently, she had a pocket full of cocaine that she put in Slaughter's face before taking him out.
Little baggie of the good stuff.
Yeah. And then
I think she got it from Ken Shamrock.
giving the old low blow, the low blow to Owen.
Yeah, it was a great heel finish. I thought it was what it was.
Well, they did a good job building up China's interference in the match because there were 3 different
They did that a
points.
lot in this era.
They did, but they really, in that point, because that's why obviously Slaughter was out there and that's why she was handcuffed to him. And they had several points when Owen's on the floor and he's taunting her and she can't get at him because she's attached. And they really did a nice job kind of playing that a little bit, which I really enjoyed in that case. But yeah, it goes back to China being a badass. I mean, I attest of the 3 people in that ring at that point in time, China was the most ripped.
Oh, she was
She
fucking
was.
ripped.
She was absolutely jacked.
Yeah.
And I love, and even when I was a kid watching it, the first thought when like they went like face to face, her and Slaughter's like chin to chin, fucking massive lower mandibles they have. Mm-hmm. It's like
Oh yeah,
Quite the jawlines.
yeah.
quite the jawline. Yeah.
If their jaws actually touched, what do you think would have happened to the universe?
Have you ever watched Dragon Ball Z?
Yeah.
I was gonna
Like
say
when they're Super Saiyans and they collide and planets explode. Like that's what would happen.
See Interstellar,
Oh,
like just a black hole would have formed.
Boston didn't realize how close they came for it all just ending horribly.
But yeah, you know, to your point about the show too, like it's interesting. Like the show, it's not like there was a lack of star power.
No,
It was very muted,
it was.
but not at the same time. It was, no match was bad. There was not a single bad match on
No,
the show. Actually,
that's correct.
Which is you can almost always pick one match at a WrestleMania.
At least.
It wasn't that good.
At least
Yeah.
one.
Which was leading us to this next match. You would assume would be the worst match.
Oh,
Was not.
I mean, it was
It was the hottest the crowd
It was
was.
the absolute
It was,
hottest the
yeah.
crowd was. And talk about a time where WWE doesn't know that their most over performer that they have was Sable.
Oh, they knew, which is why she was
Well,
in this match.
No, I know, but I'm just saying, like, it was. I mean, there was nothing close.
So legendarily, is that a word?
It is now.
I've made up several words since we've started recording this episode that you'll catch later on when you listen back to it.
This isn't
So
from me. This is from people who were in the room when it happened. But the legend goes when Mark Miro came up north to talk to Vince and Jim Ross and Bruce Pritchard and those guys. You know, he brought his wife Sable, Rena Mero, with him. And
Pretty lady.
Yeah, very very good looking one.
Brock thinks so.
Clearly, and they're just kind of talking about what their plans are for him, the Wild Man thing. Just get a feel for him, and they leave, and Vince just turns to Jim and's like, "We got to get this. We got to get her. Like, look at her. Like the way she interacted with us, her presence, her looks. He knew right then and there was a star in that room,
Yeah.
and it
Well,
wasn't
it was
Mark
not.
Mero.
Well, given Vince's track record.
Well,
Mark Mero,
It's
I
true.
think, was probably the least important person in that match.
Absolutely.
And the best part about watching that match is not only did we all know it, Mark Mero knew it too.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, he knew, and you could just tell.
He
how
was
it
the Leonardo of that
Oh my
match.
God, he was just. You could just tell it was eating away at him. Which is kind of why things ended the way it did with him in WWE. Yeah, so we get the interference from.
Well, we should probably set up the match.
Well, no,
Mark
no.
Mero-
I was just saying
Okay.
we go from the interference with China. Triple H wins, he retains, leave the ring, and then we're moving into now a mixed tag team match.
Third one in WWE history.
Third one in WWE history.
What I love about pay-per-views back then was the fucking promo packages they did between every match. Because, then in the moment, you kind of remember everything that's been going on in the build-up. But today, watching it back, you're like, I forgot that Goldust dressed up as Sable.
the artist
Yeah.
formerly known.
The artist
Yeah.
with "FU" on his face,
Mm-hmm.
which I
That
thought
was a bold choice.
it was.
It was a very strange
was,
time for Dustin and his career.
Yes.
But it was a great match. Mark Mero and Sable versus Goldust, and the artist formerly known as Goldust and Luna Vachon, who is one of my dark horse favorite lady wrestlers of all time. I love Luna. And Luna is one of those wrestlers who people rarely talk about. She was the ladies like her and Medusa and Bull Nakano, Wendy Richter and Leilani Kai, and I can go on and on. They're the ladies who set the stage for the athletic 10s that were the Trish Stratuses and the Stacy Keeblers and the Tori Wilsons. It's funny how...
And the Kelly Kellys.
It's funny how, like, professional women's wrestling in the 80s were far more athletic and competitive than they were in, like, the 90s and early 2000s.
Yeah.
And it just, like, if only that track just kept going, you know?
Yeah.
We would have gotten to the women's revolution maybe a little earlier, potentially. But, you know, Vince wanted his athletic 10s. And it worked. I mean, obviously it worked out, but the matches were not great.
No. And I give you can. So you're talking about the promos leading into this too, right, Jeff? Promos have come a long way since then.
Yep.
That's one of the first things I took back thinking about. I was like, oh man, they really upped the promo game here at WWE since then. Now every promo you see is like better than most movies that are in theaters. You know, they know how to make you feel.
The production
something.
quality was not great, but
No.
the storytelling was on point.
It was. And you know, I'm not going to sit there and say that the wrestling between, you know, Sable and Luna was great, but it was better than it needed to be. I'll say this: Sable had a much better finisher with the TKO than Mero did when he did his TKO.
I would agree with that. And it's funny. It's the crowd was so hot for Sable to do anything. And the best part about this is, I think, you know, because I'm sitting and watching, like, I'm like, man, this crowd's really... I don't remember this crowd being so fired up for this. But if you think about it, this is like comparable to having Miss Elizabeth get in the ring and really do something.
Right.
You know, which we didn't get in
No.
WWF. I think that, you know, with the storyline, the build-up was perfect. Sable was super, super over. You know, she's, you know, bikini-clad, Raw magazine, the whole 9 yards. And there's a famous story, actually. So I think within the last few months leading up to the pay-per-view, actually, and they showed a little clip of it where Luna attacks Sable with the little trophy, right? That segment was to kind of give Sable her flowers for being on the cover of Raw magazine, being one of the highest-selling Raw magazines of all time, right? But the trick is there were 2 covers to that magazine. There was her, and there was another one with Sunny. Sunny should have been in that segment. She was not in that segment. Do you know why she was not in that segment?
Murder.
The rumor is because
She didn't get there yet.
Because she came at Sable, like tried to get physical with her because she was jacked about how everything had been playing out, how she was being ignored.
Okay.
Just like Mero.
So there's a lot going on there, right? Sunny's been a troubled soul for a long time.
You know, anytime anybody looks at me and says, "Why are you into wrestling?" It's because of this shit. I'm serious.
I love the dirt.
You can't make this up.
No.
And the fact that they're all, like, most of these people are like 270 pounds and you know, great athletes and somewhat entertaining and, you know, all these egos and wrestling is built in such a way that allows these things to always happen. That's why it's so much fun. Like, no other workplace could operate like this. No fucking way.
Not at all. Not
No
at
way. But, you know, when you don't offer people health insurance, they can do shit. Because, you know, they're not worried about leaving.
Right.
Because they don't have health insurance. I mean, I've put up a lot of shit at work because I still had a health plan.
And I will give Sable a lot of credit. I'll give Rena Lesnar a lot of credit because that's her first match that we know of. I'm sure she, you know, practiced whatever, but like it's her first match on the biggest show of the year, and she sold everything perfectly. Like her facial expressions were so good. She was taking it very seriously.
She was
looked
so
pissed
serious and so
the entire
angry
time.
the whole time.
Yeah,
And
it was
that's
great.
if she looked awkward, if she looked uncomfortable, if she wasn't selling it facially, it wouldn't have worked.
Right.
But the crowd was eating all of her body language up, and Luna was selling everything great. She didn't want none until the time was right, and then she really didn't want none after that.
Yeah, not even that. I mean, you know, with her going after, with Sable going after Goldust and attacking him, like in between the tags,
Just knocking him out.
Yeah.
It was great.
Like, you could tell that she was in it to win it. We got to see the first iteration of the Sable Bomb.
Yep.
Right?
It wasn't called that then.
No,
it
just
was
power
just a
bomb
regular
then.
old power bomb in the middle of the
And
match.
I forgot
but-
about that. It wasn't the Sable Bomb yet, because when he said Power Bomb, I was like, wait. Oh,
Yeah.
hold on, because that's all I know it is the Sable Bomb, right? One thing about this match that, and when it comes to exploiting women, the WWE does not always have a great track record of this. Women's Revolution having an opportunity to really kind of change that over.
Right.
Sable being very exploited a lot of times in her career with the WWE. Very sensible ring attire. Like, there wasn't.
It was fairly conservative compared to what you would expect
there was
from,
not
a
a
typical Divas match.
She was not being sexualized,
Nope.
and neither was Luna in that match.
Well, you can't sexualize.
Well,
that.
I mean, but you can. But I'm talking about. I mean, there wasn't minimalism where their ring attire was concerned, and I thought I could almost have guaranteed that they would have. But I mean, way more sensible than even the women use today in a lot of cases.
And to your point, I'm really thinking about it. This was before that.
Yeah.
This is like
It was well before that.
Well before the athletic tens, that mandate, because now we start creeping into that real quick.
Yeah.
But this is right before it became a thing, and ladies like Sunny and Sable ushered in that era.
We didn't have Lawler yelling about puppies throughout the match. He was still yelling.
Oh yeah.
He was still chirping.
He chirps.
He
He's
chirps.
good at that.
Yeah.
So, last thing I want to say about this match, because this is way longer than I want to talk about this damn match, but it was the one thing we haven't really said is, we're talking about Sable a lot, and Mero, LOL, Mark Mero, but man, dude was so good.
He was.
He's so fucking
he was.
good.
He had a good look too.
Great look, great fucking athlete. He's not a small man.
No, he's
not.
not.
He's hopping up on the top rope like it's nothing.
Yeah.
Like, he's incredibly agile.
You think there's an alternate universe where Mark Mero didn't come in with Sable.
He came in with this gimmick that he came in with. He would have been a contender.
And also never competed in Tough Enough.
Was he in Tough Enough?
Was he Tough Enough?
What are you talking about?
Didn't he compete when they were doing like the Tough Enough, like the wrestlers are going to fight challenge?
Wasn't that Maven?
This is 1998, Mac.
No, I'm saying later on when they did that.
I have no recollection of this.
So.
When like the winner fought Butterbean, didn't they put like all the actual like fighters and wrestlers in? Wasn't Mark Mero part of that?
Are you talking about Tough Enough? Like the Tough Enough, like the
actual like
the boxing,
the actual boxing thing? Because
that's
he
what
was.
you're talking
That's what I'm
about.
talking. Not the reality show where.
I'm like,
no.
What are you talking
No,
about?
the OG Tough Enough before they went ahead and did the
Brawl for All is what you're talking.
Is that Brawl for All?
Yes.
I thought it was Tough Enough.
No.
Ah, Brawl for All.
That's
yeah.
why we were all confused.
Ah, shit, my bad, everybody.
Oh wait, did I miss a season of Tough Enough from Mark Mero?
I learned something today.
My wrestling cred just leveled down 2 points.
It was Brawl for All.
XPs just were taken away
That
from
was
me,
when
everybody.
Bart Gunn just knocked people out.
When Bart Gunn was like, I'm going to go up against Butterbean, and then Butterbean's like, no.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Mark Mero, I'm pretty sure he was in it.
I thought he was in it and didn't, as a 4-time Golden Gloves or whatever he was, didn't exactly do as well as they thought he was going to. That was the last thing I remember Mark Mero ever doing.
We should just do a mini episode on just the Brawl for All tournament.
Oh, yeah.
That was a bad idea from inception because you can't have these guys beating each other up and getting seriously injured. Steve Williams, Dr. Death, who was a big deal in Japan and a big deal in WCW back in the day, comes and gets knocked out by Bart Gunn. Instantly not over anymore.
Yep.
And he was a big deal. He came in as a big deal.
Yeah.
Anyhow. Enough of this match. Great match, great showing. Everybody looked good. Goldust as always does exactly what he needs to do.
Yep.
I was a big fan of Mero having at least a 6-count pin of Goldust before Luna came in and broke it up, and they just kind of ignored that.
Yeah, well,
All in all, it was a good match. I think we mentioned it earlier, but I think Luna gets overshadowed a lot. And in this match in particular, for what she did for women's wrestling, because she wasn't like, hey, I don't look like a model. I don't look like those 10 superstars, but I'm good at wrestling.
And it's crazy because if you put her in today, there's definitely a place for her. Because you have enough women wrestlers that you have to have different gimmicks and different plays. The landscape is so different.
She was so character-based.
Yeah, exactly.
And she's... I don't think I'd ever seen Luna not in character.
Yeah.
Sometimes you catch a wrestler like... kind of not in character, but she was always there.
Well, that's what happened to me at the grocery store with Dean Malenko.
When you were submitted?
Yeah, he was just still in character. He
So
did not appreciate me reaching for that broccoli.
He doesn't have a character. He's just Dean Malenko.
That's it. He just exudes.
It's a one note. That's it.
So we got the real quick backstage introduction with that wasn't backstage, but was it Jeff Jarrett brought out?
Jeff
Jennifer
Yeah,
Jarrett.
Tennessee
Flowers?
Lee introduced Jeff
Tennessee
Jarrett and
Lee, there
Jennifer
we go.
Flowers just to introduce the Intercontinental title
Yeah.
match.
Just to do
Because
it.
Jeff Jarrett had nothing to do that night.
Yeah.
Listen, and I know people like to shit on Jeff Jarrett, but Jeff Jarrett's a
Who?
heat magnet.
Name one person who would shit on Jeff Jarrett.
I mean, I used to.
One person who listened to this podcast, particularly, who might shit all
I
over
don't
Jeff
think he
Jarrett.
listens to the show anymore.
I don't know. Since he derailed it that one time
Since
and
he almost destroyed the
went on a
show.
30-minute Jeff Jarrett rant,
We
I
love
can't
you.
imagine who you're talking
I
about.
love you, Drew.
So yeah,
So
that
does
happens.
Arby's.
It was good. It was blah blah blah. Jeff Jarrett got on TV, got a payday.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
the reason we're here for this at this point is The Rock versus Ken Shamrock for the Intercontinental Championship, which is unfortunate because it only got 4 minutes
The
and 49
shortest
seconds.
match of the night.
Man, you could have shaved some 2 minutes off the Mark Mero
The
match.
intro with Jeff Jarrett and Jennifer Flowers was longer than the match was.
It was. This pay-per-view took place in Boston.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know,
Fleet Center.
it did. And you know, the nation did not exactly get the reception that they may have gotten other places as maybe they did in Boston. And I think The Rock was taking a lot of shit in Boston. It just like it was weird seeing The Rock not like fully over.
I thought he was being booed pretty heavily. He was over.
Well, he was, but I mean, but like we've even seen times when The Rock is, you know, the heel, and then he goes to do the people's elbow, and everybody still loses their fucking mind.
So I see where you're going with this, but my counter argument to that, or at least my addition, isn't so much. I think he was getting the exact response he was supposed to be getting, because this isn't SummerSlam Rock.
That's true.
This is '98 Rock, but this is off the heels. He is now fully invested as a heel.
Yeah,
We're talking like, die Rocky, die. Rocky sucks. These people have hated this man since like mid '97 when they turned on him out of nowhere. So this is perfect, man. Like there are stories of heels back in the '80s where like if you were almost stabbed by an audience member, that's a good thing. That's what you wanted. You wanted the type of heat where they wanted you to die.
I thought they were.
That's how you know
I
you're
actually
doing it
thought
right.
the fans were going to kill him.
Well, because listen, that's another issue I have with heels now. Like, motherfuckers want to be cool heels. I mean, and yeah, to be fair, The Rock was a cool heel, but like, a heel can have no redeeming qualities. They can't be funny. They can't be snarky. They can't dress really well. They the sunglasses on indoors. Fuck that. Who does that? Weird people do that. You know who you are.
The Rock does that.
Yeah.
Well, because he is the people's champ.
I just felt the Boston crowd was a little bit too much of a masshole for me in that case.
I also feel like that's a weird stance to take.
Well, when he started telling the story for the audience who can't see Dave, he had a very like sad, I feel really bad for The Rock moment. Like he was
I
inflecting.
did. I really felt for him.
But he's supposed to be hated. He's
yeah,
a heel.
that's the whole point of a heel.
I don't know.
He doesn't like Boston.
There's a lot
Dave
of
doesn't like
apparently.
Boston.
Dave
No,
doesn't
I love Boston.
James
we had a great time in Boston, but
crowd.
like you know, I felt something when that match was going on. I just didn't like.
You
it.
know what you felt?
I was very against
You
the
were
Boston
triggered
crowd
on
in
a
that case. I
personal level
was.
for some
I'll tell you
reason.
I was very upset about it.
I'll tell you what you felt, Mac. Heel heat. That's what you felt. You don't feel that these days anymore because no
Maybe
one
that's
fucking
probably
has
what it
full-on
was.
heel
That might have
heat.
been because like there's a point in the match, and again 4 minutes, right? I mean, you know, I watched it a few times, but like there's a point where Rock's outside the ring, and like you know, you could just see that the fans were doing something or saying something to him because like he even stopped and kind of looked back, and you just saw the middle fingers going up on the Rock and
yeah,
everything,
they're
and
flipping him off.
I felt a little bad for the Rock.
Well, they're supposed to flip him off. They hate him.
I get it, but just no, I just felt personally
attitude
attacked in
era,
this
man.
one,
I don't
man.
think we'd be here today discussing like the 101s of being a babyface and being a fucking heel. But heels are supposed to be hated.
You know.
It's kind of the point.
How about for the Tennessee? Let's go back here to the Tennessee Lee introduction.
Let's
Everything
go
real quick.
Do we need to go back?
There's this one thing I wanted to point out. They had one microphone for that,
Yes.
just one, and they had to keep handing the microphone back around to each other.
Times were tough, man.
Man, times were lean at that point for WWE.
Different times,
Yeah,
man.
that's all. All right, as you were.
But yeah, the match was fine for 4 minutes and 49 fucking seconds. Can we talk about the fucking chair shots
Chair shots. That was
that Ken Shamrock's taking?
my first note was chair shots, man. ...
I'm glad we don't do that anymore, because
My man could take it, but How much
At what
damage?
cost?
How much damage? How much
Listen.
permanent damage is done to Ken Shamrock's fucking skull?
I look at it the other way around. Ken Shamrock took a chair shot to the face and the chair lost.
Somebody lost.
Because that man walked into that ring like a package of muscles shrink wrapped into human form.
Dude, look, I know every time we talk about Ken Shamrock, I bring it up, and I bring it up every single fucking time because he should have been heavyweight champion once.
World's most
He
dangerous
was
man.
over.
Mm-hmm.
The crowd was behind him. He looked like a fucking champ. He was in great shape. He had a finisher that no one else was doing, and he got it over himself. He was credible. He was a legit tough guy, a legit badass.
A lot of people think when they think the ankle lock, they're thinking Kurt Angle.
No,
but no, it was Ken fucking Shamrock. And he also did like the step up Hurricane Rana, which was always really
He's
good too.
also a really...
He's very athletic.
There were a lot of Hurricane Ranas in this
This
pay-per-view.
show is filled with a lot of fairly large, incredibly agile guys. Undertaker,
Yeah.
Ken Shamrock, Dustin's very agile. He doesn't seem like he is, but he is. Mark Marrow.
He's got that Dusty Rhodes.
Owen's very agile for
Yeah.
being like not a small man. But the match was great, and you got to see a people's elbow without the elbow pad being taken off.
That bothered me.
It was
Oh
prior.
my god! Like I guess that's what it goes down to. Is like when I saw the people's elbow, and the pad didn't come off.
What you know it to be is not what it was. At
And
that
nobody
point in
reacted.
time.
No one
Yeah.
popped.
Nobody was popping. It felt wrong to me. Like it felt like when you like accidentally walked into the wrong room and you saw Santa Claus taking off his beard and you realized that wasn't Santa, it was some fucking dude that you sometimes see like sweeping the floors at your middle school kind of a thing. Like it felt really, this whole match was uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable talking about it right now.
I can tell. It's
It's
This is like a weird therapy session for
It is.
Mac right now.
And just to make me feel a little bit better, did anybody else notice that Ken Shamrock's hair looked like a Lego piece? Like I swear to God, what?
I did not have that note.
I did.
Wait, but
like,
Legos are little bricks.
they are. So like when you had your regular Lego dude, and like he just had like the brown hair that you just stuck on.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right? That's what Ken Shamrock's haircut looked like. I swear to God, if you popped up his hair, he had a little fucking circle on top and his head was concave all the way around it. It was just a peg underneath that. All right? I'm sorry. Ken Shamrock,
boy.
if you're listening, you know what you did.
I feel like our review of this match has now gone longer than the fucking match.
It really has.
It definitely has.
This match was a great example. So the finish basically is Shamrock beats The Rock. the
With the
crowd
ankle lock.
erupts. Everybody's fired up and excited. Yay! But he won't let go of the ankle lock.
Yeah.
And he just starts suplexing wrestlers dressed as referees because none of those motherfuckers were
Yeah.
referees.
He went full on rage. He goes ape shit and attacks everyone. They send out 8 referees and he's
just beating everybody
destroying
up.
everyone. The nation gets involved. He takes out everyone in the nation. Then Farouk comes out. We start to see the cracks in the foundation, if you will, of the nation. Farouk refuses to help The Rock. He's back in the ankle lock again. His mouth's bleeding.
Oh, so it's such a visual.
Just
I love it.
pleading for Farouk's help. And
He's like,
he's
"Nah,
like, you know what? I'm out.
And he just bounces.
Yeah, in his denim jeans.
Listen, you gonna tell him about it yourself?
No.
You ain't
Hell
saying
no.
shit
I ain't saying
to
shit.
Rock
He can fucking wear whatever he wants.
Jeez, you ain't saying shit to that guy's face. Oh my god. Well,
So then they reverse the call.
Yes.
They give the belt back to The Rock. Shamrock goes even more ape shit. Chases The Rock down to the stretcher. Beats
I
the
love
shit
it.
out of
Just
him back
beats
there.
the hell out of him even more. Poor Rock. He's just getting
He
beat
doesn't
up.
know what's going on. No wonder you feel so bad for him, Dave.
Yeah.
You know, guys, like when you're watching like the first Fast and the Furious movie, and
Where's
they
this going?
Just give me a second.
Okay.
All right, I'll get there. And they have the NOS in the car.
Yes.
We're gonna have another Fast and Furious reference coming up later on here.
Unfortunately.
It's never
It's the
good when
NOS.
it's planned that far ahead.
But you're never allowed to have but you're not supposed to do NOS twice because it's going to blow up the engine. That's how Ken Shamrock was with the cocaine in this match. Because the first hit of cocaine and he's still belly to belly suplexing people.
He's still tossing
tossing people, right? And then you see the second hit when he goes to the slowest stretcher roll out of an arena in the face of the planet, right? Like this,
Oh my God.
like I'm sitting there like they had at least a solid 6-minute head start to get that stretcher out, and they weren't even past the curve of the runway. No.
Rock just gets his ass beat further.
But for the first time, we got to see them take advantage of destroying the DX band's drum set.
Yeah.
Because that comes back around later.
The slam, there were more hits of Rock hitting the stage than DX had that night, the DX band playing. That's how many hits they did not have because they sucked with America the Beautiful and the national anthem. See what I did there?
To put a button on this match,
Got it.
I think this match is a really good example of getting over without going over. Shamrock technically lost the match, but he got over more as a babyface. The Rock technically lost the match, but then won it anyhow, and it made him look even better. I think everybody came up looking much better than they did going in.
It worked out.
It still feel like fuzzy math to me, the outcome of that match where they gave the title back to Rock. Like, I mean, I understand this is wrestling logic, and we shouldn't be considering this in the prism of a real world.
You really
but, like,
can't.
that match was well over beyond the point in time that they needed a rule that, oh, well, you know what? He just decided to be an asshole afterwards.
Well, he wouldn't let go of the ankle lock. And then they reversed it.
I just, you know what? He should have reversed the ankle lock if he was the real Rock.
So, next up is, and I know Mac's going to enjoy this one, because one, it's New Age Outlaws, and it's a gimmick match.
This was actually, I think, my favorite match of the night.
There was a ladder.
It was.
There was a ladder.
There was.
New Age
Fuck
Outlaws.
you guys.
Well, listen, we've
sit there
learned
and
your top
sit
matches
there
are
and-
gimmick matches.
He's a big
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
We're
he's a big Astro guy and a big ladder match guy.
Jeff just came up with my Sega channel.
Oh my god, it's one of the funniest things you ever said, Dave.
I know.
So
And
yeah,
it's the-
a dumpster match.
Because I felt that this match had... I actually felt like as the match went on, it actually had the most going for it in terms of, like, because I said Mick Foley tried to single-handedly, like save this pay-per-view by taking every bump humanly possible that he could. Like, I felt everything Cactus Jack did in this match.
I fucking love Mick Foley.
We all fucking love Mick Foley.
He's one of my favorite wrestlers of all. Like, it's not even fucking close. There's like Mick Foley. Let's say Mick Foley's number 5, right? And everybody else is just like somewhere else.
Yeah.
They're not even 6, 7, or 8. They're just somewhere else.
Yeah.
Because Mick Foley is the type of guy who, no matter what match he's in, no matter where he's at on the card, no matter how much he's being paid, he's going to put everything he fucking has into that one match.
Does not hold back.
And I think that's why when I said I think this was my favorite match of the night, it's because of that. It's really not because it's a gimmick match. I just felt that, like, you know, in a time when there's a void, you know Bret Hart's gone and you know Shawn's gone. You know, like they know something's coming up. I'm sure people in the back know there's no way, even if it's not even like long term, like Shawn's fucked up and there's going to be an opening for people to kind of step in. I felt that, you know, even though matches in this pay-per-view were very good, I still felt like they were still within the lines, I think is the best way that I could kind of point it. Like, they didn't exactly try to take a lot of risks. I felt a lot of this pay-per-view was really kind of playing it safe. In this match, I didn't feel like anybody played it safe. I think all the guys that were in this match, including Chainsaw Charlie.
Oh,
the one and only Terry Funk.
No, Chainsaw Charlie. I know he was called Chainsaw Charlie because he had a chainsaw when he was going to the ring, and they called him Charlie. And, you know, I don't care what JR kept saying, calling him Terry Funk. Because the point I'm getting at here is that you can tell the point where Vince McMahon got in JR's ear when he started calling him Funk during the beginning of the match. Because there's a point in the match for like 2 minutes where there's no commentary, and you know that was Vince fucking ringing him out. Like, don't fucking call him Terry Funk. You call him Chainsaw Charlie. And then like 6 minutes into the match, JR's like, you know what? Fuck it. He's Funk. he just didn't give a shit anymore.
Yeah.
That was also...
I did not pick up on that.
Oh, there was, like, the first time he comes in, Chainsaw Charlie, and then JR immediately calls him Funk. And then it's quiet for about at least a solid 30, 40 seconds. And I'm like, oh, Vince is in his ear right now. Don't call him Funk.
So, me personally, you guys talk about whatever you want. I don't really want to talk about the match. Because the match was cool. And the only thing I'll say about the match itself is that this whole show was booked really well.
It was.
There was no other match that had that level of chaos, and that's why that chaos meant something. But what I want to talk about, real briefly, is I'm so fascinated by the New Age Outlaws. Like, who they are, what they are, how long they lasted, and how, for some strange reason, they are still, like, considered, like, one of the great tag
They're still
teams.
over.
But, like,
Yep.
but they were around for like 3 years max, like being very fucking generous. And during that 3 years, they weren't even like some of the time they weren't even a tag team anymore.
Right.
I find it fascinating that like they are not in my top top 10, sure, easy top 10, but like not because they were a great team, but because they were great characters, and mostly just Road Dogg, honestly.
Yeah. I just got one thing to say about that, Jones. This is, again, the New Age Outlaws, completely and utterly made by this one thing. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, D-Generation X proudly brings to you the WWE Tag Team Champions of the World, the Road Dogg Jesse James, the Badass Billy Gunn, the New Age Outlaws. That.
Did you pick up on? You guys watched it on Peacock, right?
Yeah.
When he's doing the promo while they're walking out, how the audio cuts out when he says WWF instead of WWE.
Which was the only time they did that, because the other times they said WWF during the commentary where they didn't cut that out.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if you look back at all the tag teams over the years, I'm on the same page as you. Like, they don't stand out as like proficient wrestlers.
Like,
they had a great run, and I think it was because of the animal that DX was.
Yeah.
I don't think it was necessarily like it's because of those two. I mean, if you look at what Billy Gunn is doing in fucking AEW, it's stupid.
yes.
Ass Man or whatever.
Scissor
The
Me
Ass
Daddy.
Boys, yeah, Scissor Me Daddy. Which is just fucking weird.
It is, but it's over big time.
It is.
Jesus Christ, he's like a grandpa at this point.
Yeah.
This is like bad grandpa.
Those kids are wrestling with him. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's more about the characters and the entertainment value than
Yes.
it is the actual
The
in-ring
characters,
ability or what they were able to do as a tag team
You know
in general.
What's weird to me? Like, hear me out. Like, I think of like 97, 98, 99, 2000, 2001, 2002 wrestling, tag team wrestling. And like the New Age Outlaws just missed all that good shit. Can you imagine them mixing it up with the Hardys and the Dudleys?
Oh, yeah.
And
Just
Edge
them and the
Christian?
Dudleys would have been phenomenal to be a part of.
And it's so unfortunate that they didn't get that opportunity. You know, because who were they really going up against? Who were their big competitors? Legion of Doom,
Yeah.
Chainsaw Charlie, and Terry Funk, and Cactus Jack.
And Terry Funk.
And Terry Funk.
And
yeah.
Dude Love.
And Mankind.
And Mankind.
And Mick Foley.
A whole bunch of them.
They're the whole stable just between the two of them.
It's just interesting. Like I love New Age Outlaws, but I don't love them because they're for the reasons I love, the Hardys, or the reason I love the British Bulldogs, because they were a team. They were a team for a long time. You know, Heart Foundation were a team for a long time. The New Age Outlaws were a team for like 2.5 years, maybe, but they were so white hot at the right time.
And they were complementary wrestlers to each other.
It was good because Gunn was the athletics.
Yep.
He was Billy Gunn. It's weird. He's another guy like he is way bigger than you think he is.
Yes.
That dude's like 6'4" almost.
Yeah.
6'5". He's a big boy. He
Yeah.
doesn't look like he is though. He's incredibly athletic.
Yep.
He's a great wrestler actually. Road Dogg. I mean, he's a good wrestler generally, but he's
Great,
not great.
and great on the mic.
But that's my thing. But Billy Gunn's not great on the mic, but he's great in the ring.
Yeah.
Road Dogg's great on the mic, but not great in the ring.
Yeah.
You know, so it's a really nice balance between the two, and they can cover up each other's weaknesses.
They
definitely do.
Yeah, the sum of the parts there were definitely, creating a greater whole. Thank you, Giggity. Where those are concerned. So, yeah.
But yeah. And the only thing I want to say about the match is much respect for Terry Funk, because my man, much like Mick Foley, puts everything into every match he's in.
And I think that's why I like this match, is that I believed these wrestlers in their performance, I think more so than I believed a lot of the other wrestlers in their performances in this pay-per-view. Because the match after this, I had a hard time watching because of how many times I've seen it since. And I don't know that you would say that this Kane-Undertaker match was the best Kane-Undertaker match you've probably ever seen.
Yeah.
But it might have been, it was the first one we've ever really seen, though, right?
It is the first one.
Yeah. So, knowing the work that those guys did against each other and with each other afterwards, made this almost like a vanilla ice cream match for me. And in a lot of cases, not at all, because Undertaker, again, as you said earlier, Jones, how many big athletic guys that the WWE had. I mean, just seeing a younger Taker doing some of the shit that even older Taker would still do,
Yeah, right?
which is fucking crazy in itself. So goddamn athletic.
Yeah, for as big as they are.
A guy should not move like that. And I like that he had Kane because you could really start to have an opportunity where you could see Undertaker do what he could do with a guy his size that could take him doing what he could do. Because there was one move where like Taker ended up like on top of Kane's shoulders, and I'm like, he's not gonna fucking do that with like Taka Michinoku, right? If he did that, Taka's like through the ring.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just a different dynamic.
Yeah.
Just going back to the last match real quick, my final thoughts were this match had everything you'd expect: a dumpster, a ladder, someone going from a ladder into the dumpster, a powerbomb into a dumpster, a forklift, and a giant Surge bottle.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Which is
Surge.
very 90s.
The fully loaded citrus soda with carbos. Feed the rush.
Yeah. And Cactus Jack and Terry Funk use an even bigger dumpster and the
I love
forklift to win the match. But like, I was like, holy shit, that's a Surge bottle. And you know, at this time, like Surge was like taking off as like a Coke brand or whatever. And I don't know if you guys had the same thing, but in my high school, they brought in a Surge vending machine that only served Surge, which is like a weird thing to
very weird.
market to kids for low cost.
So I marked the same way when I saw the Surge bottle, because I remember those bottles in grocery stores and stuff. They're these big plastic bottles that they'd fill with ice and then put drinks in, and you'd have to reach into the bottle to pull out your beverage. I loved Surge when I was like in junior high and in high school. They at the hockey rink that I played in, they had a vending machine it wasn't a Surge vending machine, but it had like 3 things of Surge, and I would always get it. And then one day, this guy who was the paramedic at all our hockey games, he saw me getting a Surge. He goes, "You know what you should do with that?" I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Put it in the freezer and freeze it, because it ends up tasting completely different when you pull it out of the freezer and like becomes a slushy." He's like, "It's so much better." And I'm like, fuck. Like the knowledge this guy had, the life experience. So like I tried it, and it was awesome. I loved Surge. I wish Surge never went away. It's like one of 2 like vending machine drinks that I always really loved. The other was Jagged Ice Powerade, which as an athlete, if you ever went to a hockey rink or anything, you get the Jagged Ice Powerade. That shit was the best. It was like purple blue. Fucking awesome. They've never brought it back.
Yeah.
If you're listening to this Coca-Cola company, bring back some fucking Jagged Ice Powerade.
So Surge went away.
It did, unfortunately.
And then they brought it back out a few years ago.
They did.
And the nostalgia wasn't
No.
It was not good.
Motherfucker, I got Monster Energy drink. Why do I need fucking Surge?
That's the thing.
So it was very short-lived.
in the Surge vacuum that it left, a lot of things filled that void.
Really quickly.
Yeah, and
Really
for some
quickly.
reason I always think of what's the drink in Futurama? Slurm?
Yeah.
It's like the Futurama version of Surge. Like that's what I think of every time. But I thought it was worth noting because, you know, we're kids of that generation.
Yeah.
Oh my God, yeah.
Dear sweet listeners, do yourself a favor. Go onto YouTube, pull up a Surge commercial from the 90s, and just see what we were subjected to.
Get fucking amped.
Just
over
get so
Surge.
fucking amped over Surge.
I'm not even sure it even fucking worked.
Yeah.
It was just in my head.
But the next match, Undertaker versus Kane.
Yes.
Brother versus brother. It's gotta be Kane.
Wait! That's gonna be Kane! That's gonna be Kane!
The build up to this match was, oh, I don't want to fight my brother. Then I get burned alive in a fucking coffin match. And then apparently me and my brother now have superpowers where we can just electrocute people.
And control lightning.
Yeah. Catch people on fire. A camera guy got caught on fire. It's good times.
My only note to that was just watching the
so
video
absurd.
thing. Well, first off, was Michael Cole doing the voiceover for that?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought
He
it
did,
was.
yeah.
Just Undertaker versus Kane, so many powers. That's all I had.
That's my note.
I felt like that was enough. No, I mean, I had more notes about the match, but just in terms of just the build up to that, it's like, wow.
They were doing it like fucking Emperor Palpatine, like throwing force lightning.
Yeah.
Like, it was so stupid.
So the match itself, in the archives, we did cover Undertaker's career. I feel like we could have done way more if we ran out of time. But we did cover Undertaker's career, and I'm gonna kind of go back to what I said, and I don't really typically like Undertaker matches. I just like the character, you know.
The character's great. The gimmick's great. The fucking intro. This intro was fire. Literally. It was fire.
How many druids? So many druids.
So many.
All the druids.
So many torches.
So many.
For my money, this feud is like my creme de la creme example of why The Undertaker is the greatest gimmick of all time. Like, if you stop and think about who The Undertaker is, we have gone from invincible, you know, Jason Voorhees type, to the body bag, to the caskets, to the doppelgangers, to the lightning strikes, to being buried alive, to being a devil worshiper, to being a demonic deity. All this stuff. And it always works. Even when it doesn't, it still works because The Undertaker is the greatest creation Vince McMahon has ever had.
You know what doesn't work? So we have the Dead Man, one of the greatest wrestling characters ever. Versus his undead, thought to be burned alive brother. Introed by the one and only Pete Rose. For no fucking reason except to come out, insult the crowd, and then get tombstoned by Kane.
He shit all over the crowd. I felt like, in terms of, you know, bringing the metaphorical heat, you know, not what Kane's, you know, pumping out of the ring posts, just to go ahead and call out Bunky Dent and Bill Buckner to a baseball city that hasn't won a World Series in like 95 years at that point in time, that loves baseball probably more than anything.
This was the second time in the pay-per-view where Dave got real sad. It was The Rock, and then it was the Red Sox fans.
But like, no, it's just, I mean, I was always a big fan of shitting all over Boston fans, especially even now, but they've won a whole lot since then.
Okay, wait a minute, I get it now. You heard what he just said.
Yep.
That's your tell right there. You always enjoy shitting all over Boston fans.
I do.
So it wasn't the fact that they were... It was
I just
the
wanted to
fact they were
shit all
being
over
mean
them.
to The Rock.
Physically
It was
and
that
literally.
you actually just don't like the Boston
I don't like the
people.
Boston fans. No, I don't like the Boston sports fans. I like Boston people because a third of my family's from there. And I don't know if that third's
Doesn't mean
really...
you have to like them.
That's right.
I mean, I don't know necessarily that
that's
they're
fair.
really listening to this podcast or not, but in case they ever do, guys, you all right.
You cool.
You cool.
You're cool enough.
But like there's a whole thing with Boston sports fans where they have a chip on their shoulder because they're not New York. And they know they're not New York. And New York in sports has always had a lot more success overall, especially at that point in time, because Boston hadn't won a championship in anything for quite a while. And they're always just envious of being, like, they always wanted to be New York because New York was number one and they were just number two. And I hated that. So, you know, maybe I'm shitting all over their fans a little bit.
Yeah, maybe.
But, you
Just
know,
a tad.
whatever.
Hey, listen, own it.
Yeah.
I'm not judging you.
So, Boston, you know what you did. Fuck Tom. Fuck you, Tom Brady. Fuck you, Tom Brady. All right?
I was there that night.
I was there 2 of those nights when he
I
cheated.
know what you did last summer.
Never forget.
Never forget.
So, yeah.
We had a good time when we were up there, though.
Great
It
time.
was a lot. Town was awesome. Loved
Great
it.
time.
Yeah.
So, to the point of the match where, like, there's all these different things that Undertaker's been able to accomplish as a character, as a gimmick. But none more ridiculous. Listen, I will take the doppelgangers. I will take the lightning strikes. I will take them being buried the fuck alive and then raising up. I remember that. I saw that show. I saw that shit happen.
Did you guys ever wonder why they tried killing the dead man so many times? We're surprised he just came back.
No. But
Like, that just occurred to me. It's like they really tried to kill the Undertaker a lot, and they're like, "Oh my God, he's back!" And it's like,
He
he's
is the
the
dead
Undertaker.
man? Yeah.
I mean, he's already dead.
Never would've guessed
you
that
can't
would
kill
happen.
the dead man.
So, but none more ridiculous than the fucking long thought dead and forgotten brother Kane. But the best part about this is, as absurd as it is, as ridiculous as it is, it fucking worked. It was fantastic, actually.
It was pretty great.
Glenn Jacobs, who, nothing to say about his political beliefs as mayor of wherever in Tennessee. Fuck that. But I'll tell you what. Yeah, I said it. But as a wrestler, he took the gimmick, the character of Kane, obviously very seriously. And, you know, I made it a point to write that it spoke volumes of what the man Mark Calloway felt about Glenn Jacobs to allow him to kick out of the tombstone.
Yep.
Twice.
That's a big fuck.
Twice.
It don't get no bigger than that.
No.
Like,
Because as a fan, as a kid, you're like,
Oh, it's over.
Kane really is indestructible. Like, he kicked out of the tombstone twice.
What kid was Undertaker's have to light him on fire again?
Again.
But yeah, I thought the match was fine.
Just bring marshmallows next
They
time.
gave it the time.
Yeah, they did.
Up to
Damn
this
near
point,
20
this was the
minutes.
longest match on the card.
There weren't really any
17
matches
minutes.
on the card that were double digits up to this point, were they? I mean, every match was under 10 minutes,
Yeah,
and this wasn't
right around 10 or less.
it's so funny watching this pay-per-view because this is really the anti-today pay-per-view, right? You know, we're releasing this episode right before WrestleMania is coming out, and in case you've been living on a rock somewhere, if you smell what it's cooking, thank you. WrestleMania is a 2-night show now, right? This was 7-8 matches. 8 matches, and most of the matches were The Rock had 4 minutes.
Yeah, ain't that something?
In a night where there were 8 matches, one of them was 4 minutes long.
Yep.
The take of him on the stretcher took twice that long. But like, yeah, this was such an This is a very different WrestleMania than anything we're probably kind of used to seeing and are used to seeing now, just in how opposite everything is now. Big venue. You know, it's a football stadium now every time they do it. It's never going to be in an arena again. Never.
Right.
You've got, a bunch of guys that are now Hall of Famers, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
But you also have, you get the idea. It's just a very opposite WrestleMania than what we're used to seeing now.
One thing that was always interesting, so like now they always tell how many tickets they sold. So then they sold 19,028 in attendance. But they also said how much money they made off of ticket
that
sales.
stood out to me.
Which I was like, that's kind of a weird thing to brag about.
But they were pretty excited.
Yeah.
We're making money this year, guys. Hey!
We can finally pay our talent. It's great.
But yeah, I think the match was fine. Okay, here's my question before I move on, because there's not much I can really say about this match outside of it's an Undertaker versus Kane match. Which one is your favorite? This one or the one at WrestleMania 20? Have you guys seen that match?
I have.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like every Undertaker Kane match is pretty much the same.
All right. So,
I'll say 20.
why?
I just think that, they worked just a little bit better. I haven't watched the match in a while, but
there were 6 years of Undertaker Kane matches in between.
No, I know, but I'm just saying, I don't know. I just think that it just worked a little bit better at that point. You have a point where there's not really a feeling out process for each other.
Well, I think this one felt more personal because it's the first one, and they dug up all the dirt, and Paul Bearer was telling the story, and really selling it that.
Paul Bearer, man.
He died. It's your fault. Tell the people that you murdered your brother.
What's yours then?
This match, this first one.
Okay, okay, and this may sell you on 20. I think 20 is a vastly superior match, not because the in-ring work. The match was fine, no better than this one, but it's not the match, it's the idea, right? That match is amazing to me because this match took place at WrestleMania, the first time ever, technically. So at Survivor Series, leading up to WrestleMania 20, Vince McMahon and Undertaker are fighting each other in a buried alive match.
Mm-hmm.
Undertaker ends up getting buried by Kane, who they weren't feuding together. He just pops up out of fucking nowhere like Sabretooth and Wolverine. Just, it's your birthday, boy. I'm going to show you. But he comes out of nowhere. Undertaker's the biker at this point. Buries him alive at Survivor Series November of 2003. Buries his ass. Kills him. Here lies my brother. Kane is now insane Kane now. The mask is off. His bald head, kind of weird haircut.
Yeah.
He's
Still has
not
the
that-
contact lens.
Yeah. He's like full-on evil villain Kane. And then you start having the lights go out. And the bong and all that. And it's a Royal Rumble. And then, but the best fucking
Back from the
part
dead
is,
again.
fucking best part is, at WrestleMania 20, Kane comes out. There's no way, Undertaker said he's not going to show up. There's no way he's going to show up. The fucking Druids come out, just like at WrestleMania 14, the Druids come out. And the motherfucker wearing the exact same thing he wore when he was buried. That's the thing.
Yeah.
It's like a weird thing
That's
to
a
me.
it's a payoff.
It's like,
he
he rose from the
literally,
fucking dead with Paul
fucking
Bearer.
got him.
Like, to me, is the best payoff of an angle.
Yeah.
Because it made some sense, as ridiculous as it was, actually. That is why WrestleMania 20's match is the best one, because it is a full ass circle we just made. Kane, Druids, Paul Bearer, Kane, and Undertaker. Years later, we do it again at WrestleMania 20 of all fucking places. Mm-hmm. Anyhow, I just love that shit. I ate that match up. But you know what else I ate up?
What number was this in the streak? Do you guys know?
Hold on.
That just popped into my head. Like, this was in the streak.
So this would be like 7-0, maybe 6 or 7-0.
Maybe before it was a thing.
That was definitely before it was a thing.
Was it his WrestleMania? His first WrestleMania was WrestleMania 7. So it's like his 7th or so, 7th, 8th, something like that. Yeah. So yeah, we're getting, he's knee deep in it actually.
Yeah. We're building some momentum towards that.
So speaking about momentum, we are here to talk about why we're even here today, this morning actually, not even nighttime, or it might be nighttime where you are. I don't know what you fucking do with your life, listeners. Not
Midnight listener.
Midnight. Well, we all know
he listens at night.
Stone Cold Steve Austin taking on the Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels for the World's Heavyweight Championship.
Pretty big deal.
So, Dave,
what's up?
The floor is yours.
Yeah, Stone Cold was a badass. This was
oh, good. Well, anyhow,
he's like, actually, I don't even like Stone Cold.
I fucking hate that guy.
I'm a Shawn Michaels guy.
Next week. No, I was just pulling up the streak real quick. It was 7. It was a 7 match. Yeah. Undertaker was 7-0. So, all right. So, Stone Cold Steve Austin.
More importantly, this is the second week in a row that we've talked about Mike Tyson.
That's true.
That is weird.
Oh man, I was out at this Clubhouse Cards. It's a trading card collectible store over by the mall. Stopped in yesterday looking for something real quick, and up on the wall they have a picture of Mike Tyson in Mike Tyson's Punch Out, autographed by Mike Tyson.
That's pretty cool.
That's pretty dope.
That I thought was pretty cool, and all the dumb shit that I collect, I'm like, you know what? That's actually one I would actually be really proud to show off. We're entering the stratosphere of the planet that was Stone Cold Steve Austin at this point, and this is really when Stone Cold is officially going to take over WWE. That he's going to become the guy. They're gonna hitch their wagon to him, and we're gonna see how far this thing goes. We're just gonna go as far as you can take us. So you had a lot of buildup of Stone Cold's legend leading into this. You had the match with Bret Hart where he didn't tap to the sharpshooter. You had the King of the Ring where we start building up the catchphrases. And, like I said, there's always a time with a wrestler where the character and the persona blend. When the wrestler becomes the person and the person becomes the wrestler. And, you're really getting into this point with Stone Cold at this point because that star is starting to just shoot. But in his way is the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels. Again, how much heat do you have on Shawn Michaels being a few months after the Montreal Screwjob? And you have a lot of the history that's been there with Shawn up to that point in time. But you also have a very injured Shawn Michaels. And it was one of the things that especially where this match was concerned, is that you can tell that he's injured.
Even though it wasn't public knowledge per se,
right.
You could definitely tell that he was off.
Yeah. Because, if you think about this, put it on paper. Just put it on paper. You've got Stone Cold at the beginning of Stone Cold. And you've got Shawn Michaels, Mr. WrestleMania. The guy. When we went ahead and we're talking about our favorite matches, you can go over so many Shawn Michaels iconic matches, and there are a whole bunch we didn't even talk about. And how many times this guy steals the show at WrestleMania.
And it's not just because you get to see his ass again. I know you were excited about that.
I do have a note that we do get this twice, as a matter of fact.
Unfortunate.
It's not really a pay-per-view unless you see Shawn's ass, I feel, at this point in his career. But you're right. Like, Shawn's major heel. He's got Iron Mike Tyson, right? The baddest man on the planet at this point, right?
That was peak Mike Tyson,
That was
too.
peak Mike Tyson.
That was pre-face tattoo Mike Tyson.
Yeah, although, I did think it was interesting when the crowd was chanting Evander Holyfield, or Holyfield's name in there. And, like JR's like, I can't hear what they're saying.
Can't quite make it out.
And I was like, no, they're chanting Holyfield, which was a hell of a thing, right? Yeah, but this was a match of Mr. WrestleMania versus the greatest of all time. But I also don't feel like that's the match we really got, per se. I mean, this was really, this is what Shawn, to an extent, just doing the favors, right? There's no way he wants to lose at WrestleMania.
And I don't want to lose at all.
Well, of course, yeah, right.
He lays down for no one.
Right. But again, this is the point where he knows in the back of his mind what's going on,
right.
and this there's no choice at this point. So like there's this thing on Shawn Michaels' face in this match. I don't know if you guys kind of picked up on this, where he just looks sullen through. He doesn't have that same necessary Shawn Michaels swagger, but he still was turning the performance on physically.
Yeah, the charisma's not quite there in terms of how he's selling it.
Right.
It's because he's laying down.
Well, yeah.
Because he's doing the job.
Yeah.
He's going to do it clean.
Yeah. You know how your boss makes you stay late and do some shit that you really don't want to do? And you're like, fuck this job, but I have to do it because it's my job. That was Shawn Michaels in this match.
Yeah.
So this match is really interesting for various reasons, but it was an incredibly big, important match. Because if we all remember, even if you didn't watch that Raw, you sure as shit heard about it. When Mike Tyson came to Raw,
yep.
and him and Austin had the fucking pull apart, and it was all over TV. It was on the news. It was in the newspapers when people read the newspapers. Like it was a part of.
Yeah, it was a big deal
of pop culture, and there are people who did not watch wrestling, who saw that shit and went, "Is that Mike Tyson? Who the fuck is that guy? Who's that bald guy? What?" Yeah. I know what WrestleMania is. Maybe I should watch this.
Yeah. This was so with wrestling, and we talked about this in the Nintendo. The NES episode, available in the archives, by the way.
Yep.
About how the importance of Mike Tyson to the sports landscape at that point. Because, in the 50s, 60s, 70s, whatever, there were three sports in America. It was horse racing, it was baseball, and it was boxing. Those three were king in the American sports landscape. Now, boxing, arguably was probably the biggest of all because at that time you also had the biggest personalities in boxing.
Yeah.
I mean, Muhammad Ali is considered probably the most important sports figure in the history of professional sports, at least in America, maybe even around the world, because that man transcended cultures, right? So wrestling starts to see those guys kind of fade out, but then comes in this guy. I mean, so again, if God forbid, if you don't know who Mike Tyson is, first off, what the fuck are you doing with your life? Read a book. But like Mike Tyson was the streak that Goldberg was, but in real fucking life. That man had a one-punch power that was the most devastating thing that anybody's probably ever seen in the history of fighting. Minus Frank Dune. Who's our dude from fucking Bloodsport?
Dukes.
Frank Dukes. Yeah, sorry, Frank Dukes. Yeah. Minus Frank Dukes. Fastest knockout in Kumite history.
Also in the archives.
Yeah. But this was real life on television for everybody to see, and now you're bringing him into wrestling where he's still the baddest man on the planet. Nobody's going to stand toe to toe with Mike Tyson in real life, but at least the wrestlers look the part.
Right.
They look physically like they can stand up to him.
Yeah, I don't know what his payday was from WWE for
it was 6 figures
for this short stint.
Yeah.
But what a smart fucking business move by Vince McMahon.
Right?
Because he saw the potential there of what could be and what the draw would be.
Right.
And then our isolated bubble of, predetermined wrestling matches started bleeding into everything else from like the news and regular pop culture, and it was such a weird thing, but it was so fucking smart because look at the payoff.
Yeah.
It was big.
Yeah.
You know.
And it's kind of funny because really in the match, Tyson almost had nothing to do.
Nope.
Almost
just there.
He was just
That's the beauty
there,
of it.
right?
He was the
Um,
enforcer.
He was the enforcer. But I for whatever reason, I remembered him being more involved in that match, and that was maybe just my brain merging together those months leading up to that, of him being more involved in that match. But yeah, I mean that. Okay, you're gonna go ahead and in a time where the legitimacy of wrestling, which is a funny thing to say in itself, was being called into question just a few months earlier. All right, we're gonna bring Iron Mike Tyson in, and he's gonna keep this shit straight.
Can't fake that.
You're not gonna fake that. No.
You know what was really cool? Obviously, Austin was white hot over. Like the universe was ready for this.
Yeah.
Say what you want about Shawn Michaels being like, the Attitude Era, and he was attitudinal, and he was the beginning of the Attitude Era, like very much the very beginning of the Attitude Era. But he was also around in 1989. I remember the Rockers. He was also around in 1992.
You know who doesn't remember that? Marty Jannetty.
Fuck. He doesn't remember much these days.
That's why he's on Twitter so much. So one day he'll just
right.
go back over and remember the things he didn't remember.
When he takes a break from fucking and doing cocaine.
Do yourselves a favor, ladies and gentlemen. If you're not following Marty Jannetty on the socials, you probably should. You're not going to be disappointed. You're going to probably learn a lot too, but you will not be disappointed.
It is something.
There are times in our general group text that we send out to each other that we're just going to randomly pull in a tweet from Marty Jannetty from that day. And it's exactly what you think.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's absurd.
It was weird seeing Stone Cold Steve Austin. And it's weird because I hadn't watched this match in such a long time. But it was weird seeing him as an unproven contender. It was weird to me.
Yeah.
He was fighting for it.
Yeah. It was even because anytime after that, he was the dude. He was the man. He was the guy. Even if he was fighting for the title, he was still
Yeah, he had
Stone
cemented
Cold
his
Steve.
spot.
This is before
He was still
that.
working towards
and
it.
he's like, I love Steve. Okay, so I wanted to talk about this because you brought it up, and like the who Steve Austin is. And we were talking about this way earlier in the episode. Stone Cold Steve Austin is notoriously untrusting of people. Like the man, Steve Williams,
Right.
is notoriously untrusting of other people. He's notoriously very protective of his spot.
Yep.
Which has caused more problems than it solved for him in his career, obviously. When he
That
walked
is
away, when he didn't want to do the
facts.
job
That
for
is
fucking Brock Lesnar on Raw, he
that is
walked.
absolutely true.
Right?
Yep.
And he admitted that he was wrong about that.
He did.
But it is what it is. But to look at this man, like, everything Steve Austin did was great. Like, the glass shatters, the BMF walk. It's his sauntering, it's his swagger, it's his energy. Gets in the ring, and then he does like the rope, blah blah blah, and he gets right in Tyson's face. And I know, like, real life, Tyson would knock you the fuck out.
Yep.
But it doesn't matter because in the squared circle, you're in his world now. You're in Austin's world
Yeah.
now. And I love how he starts jaw jacking at him, and Tyson's not backing down. I'm like, oh, what's gonna happen? When you're a kid, like, are they gonna go swinging on each other now? And the whole time you're thinking, oh, what's Tyson going to do? What's Tyson going to do? Enter Shawn Michaels, who is one of the greatest in-ring performers of all time. And this is, unfortunately for him, a really bad time of his life.
Yep.
Very, historically, covered, I'm not going to go into it, but he had a lot of drug issues, a lot of pain. He was on a lot of pills. He was having a lot of issues. He was his own worst enemy. There are some serious, interesting stories, the shit that he would pull back in the day, and during this period. But him knowing that this was his last rodeo for a while was a big thing, and I'm sure that was also weighing on his head. Not just the fact that he was going to lay down, but knowing that this was going to be it for him.
Yeah.
There's a point in the match, and I want to know what you guys think. Because he's moving on pretty gingerly.
Yes.
Throughout the match initially, he's moving around, he's bumping all over the place, but there's one spot where it starts.
Mm-hmm.
The one spot when he does the upside down into the turnbuckle.
He
lower
hit that.
back into the turnbuckle.
He hit that so hard.
He bounced off that
He
son of a
really
bitch.
hit that hard.
And then he starts selling the back.
Oh, yeah.
Right after that. And
Yeah.
that was like, he just starts slowing down.
Yep.
And that was not the Shawn Michaels that Austin should have wrestled, unfortunately.
No. And I
But
think...
he still did his best.
He started slowing down there, and then when they were going at it outside the ring, when he hit the table, the announcer's table. He started slowing down even more, and it was like pretty noticeable. I mean, us knowing, you know, what happens after that. Now watching it back, you're like, oh yeah, that's a sure tell sign. But like in the moment, you know, I don't recall what I was thinking or feeling watching it the first time when it really happened. But it's now you're like, man, dude's back is fucked.
Well, like this, and again, you know, you got to remember at this point in time to everybody, this was his last match. Like there was nobody thought Shawn Michaels was ever going to wrestle again. That's where you get the miracle of modern medicine, ladies and gentlemen, where they were able to do a surgery on his back that was able to allow him to do this shit again, right?
Yeah,
and do it at a high level, right?
Yeah, because he didn't wrestle for 4 years after this match, and then he was supposed to come back for one match, and then the doctors are like, if you're okay with it, you can go.
Yeah,
And
like
he went
medically,
and he's like, oh, I'm gonna
medically,
fucking go.
this is medically, you're going to be able to do this again.
It's pretty wild.
You saw it again, like more recently with Edge. Edge had his issues and he had to retire, and then medicine catches up a little bit. He gets some treatments, and you know he's able to. Because Edge, I mean, we don't see Edge obviously in a capacity where he's an everyday guy.
Yeah,
he
he's
never
not
will.
spearing anybody off a ladder.
No, but we are seeing him wrestle, which was something, you know, a number of years ago when he announced his sudden retirement. We were convinced we were never going to see that again.
Neck and back injuries are not something you fuck around with.
No.
No, absolutely not. But you mentioned too, Jones, about Stone Cold. You know, to me, the glass. There are things with a wrestler that need to work that keep the wrestler's popularity going. Number one, there's no sound in wrestling more iconic than the glass breaking. There's no sound in wrestling more iconic than that. It instantly, because what follows, it instantly is a brand, right? And Stone Cold also has a great brand.
Yep.
You know, with the broken skull, and you know, he didn't go into Hollywood. He tried Hollywood. It wasn't for him. He admits that. You know, if you go back and watch any type of interviews that he does, the podcast, which is hugely successful, is really his format. Like that's where he feels most comfortable being able to do things.
Yeah, he tried to do the same thing that Cena and Rock did.
Yeah.
And it did not work for him.
It just wasn't for him, right? The finisher, right? The Stone Cold Stunner can come out of nowhere, which every great finisher in wrestling, as we've always discussed, should come organically and out of nowhere. It can be done at any point in time. You know, when there's things where you gotta set people up, and you know, or you know, I hate when the guys are like, you know, revving up for their finishing move.
You mentioned that last time.
Even though Sean does it in this too.
The Sweet Chin music was fucking money, man.
Well, you know, when he's striking up the band, you know.
But the best part about it is, to my argument to that.
But he can still do it without revving it up. Like Shawn Michaels can just do Sweet Chin music.
He started like towards the end of his career that became more of like a out of nowhere type of move, which is fine. But man, like 96, 95, Shawn Michaels, when he was like top babyface level, he just became heavyweight champion.
Yeah.
Because it was cool because the audience could get involved. They'd start stomp. I remember everybody would start stomping with him.
Yeah.
And the whole building would start to shake with the boom.
Yeah.
Boom, and he'd start slapping the leg, getting ready for it. I, as a little kid, fucking ate that shit up. I thought that was fucking fantastic. I do like the snap super kick probably more because it's a bit more versatile, but you can't sleep on the stomp, man. You can't sleep on that.
Because I see Roman Reigns do it with the
not
fucking
the same.
I know, but it feels to me like there's that same level of just, I don't want to fucking watch you sit there and just, you know, wait for the dude to stand up and do the thing. It's just I just want you to like just do the Superman punch.
I don't want to do the fucking Hulk.
Well, nobody does.
About being real.
But like on the flip side of that, right? There's another side of that coin. John Cena with the 5 moves of doom, right?
Yeah.
When John Cena does the thing where, you know, the guy stands up and always does the swinging haymaker, like, you know it's coming, but it's still within, as ridiculous as it is, to me that still works in the context of what a match would be.
It's like hulking up.
I know.
Everybody does the same.
I know.
He starts hulking up. He points the finger. Motherfucker, you've seen this before. You know what to do. Get out of the ring. Let's just get out of the run. I would have loved somebody one time to see Hogan start to Hulk up and he just jump out of the ring.
He just goes, nope, turns
I'm not
around and
doing
just
this.
goes right
Seen
out.
this
wait.
before.
Yeah,
Ain't
yeah,
falling
just
for your
turns around and
shit,
walks
Hulk.
right out. 10 count, it's over.
And they all do the throw the punch, and he blocks it, and it's always the same thing. But that's the theatrics of it, right? That's the beauty of it, right?
But the thing that's interesting about this version of Stone Cold is that, I mean, he's still over, right?
Oh, yeah, big time.
Fans are loving him. The character is still not fully formed yet. Because there is always the element of Stone Cold Steve Austin that he needed that put him into the level that nobody got to. We're not there yet with this. And that's obviously the Mr. McMahon angle, which we started seeing that coming up here in,
we saw that within like a couple weeks. It was really starting to become a thing.
Yeah, because there was a void. I mean, who's Stone Cold Steve Austin at the height, going to really feud against? There's nobody there besides Undertaker. And you saw at this point in time, because they only really had 4 main event guys in terms of Undertaker, Kane, Stone Cold, and they were doing a lot of stuff with Mick Foley eventually with the different personas. Dude Love comes in at this point. But you didn't have the mid-card guys yet. They needed that time to be able to come up. But yeah, this was such it's a good point that you mentioned too, Jones, at the beginning of the podcast. This is the transitional period for WWE. Transformative. This is where everything that is going to happen is gestating from. Mm-hmm. This is the alien chest buster, type deal that everything is going to come from. This sets wrestling up for the rest of where it is today.
So what you're saying is this is the xenomorph of WrestleManias?
Yes.
Okay.
Fair
as long
enough.
as we have it out there now.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. You talk about, how characters evolve over time and, what we know as the persona of Stone Cold Steve Austin. And even like at the end of the match, he goes over to the rope and he reaches his hand out. And us, knowing Stone Cold to be Stone Cold, we're expecting beers to start flying. And no, he just gets the belt and then he celebrates with Tyson and then he just walks out.
Yeah.
I'm like,
gets the Stone Cold shirt.
Yes.
There is, like I said, that's why I kind of said there's an element of kind of to this pay-per-view. Because again, what this match ultimately could have been if you had a healthier Shawn, if you had, where was the fallout going to be after Stone Cold? Because Shawn Michaels not going to be able to wrestle him again, because he's out. And who's the next gen coming up? It's Stone Cold at the top of the mountain, and the next people are still a few rungs away from kind of getting up there. But was this the best match of the night? Would you guys say?
Certainly the most important.
It's the most important, but I'm saying in terms of like wrestling and everything else, is it the best match of the night?
Probably not.
Yeah, I'll say yeah.
Yeah.
I think let me look back at the card. The Battle Royal, the light heavyweight match was good. I mean, it was what it was. Owen and Triple H, good, but man, like it didn't have a lot of fire to it. But the main event had the weight to it, like the importance to it. It had the star power to it, and then some, obviously, with Tyson. The match was fast-paced when it needed to be. It was high-flying when it needed to be.
Yeah, and it started out super fast, and then they knew when to slow it down.
They brawled when they needed to. They went out to the railing, out to the instruments when they needed to.
Shawn Michaels got a fifth of vodka when he needed to.
Right. So, if for my money, it actually is the best match of the night because it hit every single thing that a match needs to hit in order to be successful. It had emotion. It was up and down. It was slow. It was fast. It was everything it needed to be. So.
And it's the reason to watch this pay-per-view back.
That's why you bought the pay-per-view.
That's obviously the case. Maybe just because of the last wrestling topic we did was favorite wrestling matches. Maybe I'm just a little bit more jaded than I needed to be on this pay-per-view.
Today, man.
We watched a lot of good matches.
We did watch
we watched a lot of ladder matches.
Well, no, yeah, we did. I can't argue that. That's 48. No, but because even before picking the ones that I did, I probably watched 8 or 10 matches for that. So maybe it's just me. Maybe it's not you guys. Guys, it's not you. It's me.
Okay.
Sorry.
As long as you're okay with it.
Yeah.
We're okay with it.
But yeah, I mean, this was the culmination of a lot of work that Stone Cold Steve Austin put into developing his character, developing his persona. I'll sit there and talk the history of Stone Cold all day, and I don't want to necessarily do that in this episode because we might do that in a future episode. But You know, the rocket was launching, man. You know, the countdown had hit 0. We're putting the belt on him, and we're just going to launch this thing and see how far it goes. And man, did it go.
Fucking went.
It fucking went. Because as everything that you might see in this, if you watched WrestleMania 14, everything that you see in watching it, you have to know that it's going to get 10 times hotter. Like,
Yeah.
and not because again, we talk about Stone Cold. That window at Stone Cold, as hot as it was, and as bright as it was shining at that point. I mean, how many years did it last?
Just a few.
Just a few, right?
Yeah. It's like
Just-
5. It was like not even really 5 years.
No, I know. But like that's the thing. It's like it wasn't Hogan, in that time frame. It wasn't Cena in his time frame.
Right.
You didn't quite. I mean, you had. I mean, I would even argue that probably Roman Reigns right now, as a bigger foothold.
Roman Reigns
in
has been
that.
around for a long time.
He has at this
it doesn't
point, right?
seem like it, but he has.
No, but we're talking like
Him,
over
Rollins,
500.
they've been around for a hot ass minute.
Yeah.
In WWF.
So that shooting star, again, use the analogy. It burned bright, and then when it faded, not that he did, but he did.
Well, there was so many. Yeah, I mean, there's so many things that were going on with.
Yeah,
him.
because 14, and then at 19, he's done.
Right, you figure he was already. It's not like he was 24.
No, of
when
course.
he finally got the break he needed in
Right.
the WWF.
Yeah, he'd been around.
Yeah, he was already wearing a knee brace when he made it.
Yeah.
Man, that dude was born with at least one knee brace.
I feel bad for his mom birthing
that. The incident with Owen at SummerSlam the previous year. So the ticker was going. That shaved years off his career. But I maintain, and he's even kind of acknowledged this. While although that was an awful thing that he never forgave Owen for, and that's a whole other conversation. How on the insides of that in a way forced him to change his style that he wrestled, because before that, as a chicken shit heel, he was a bump machine.
Mm-hmm.
He was
A little more reckless.
very, very Tennessee bumping around like crazy. Top rope moves consistently. Dude could move. When he gets that injury, he has to slow down. He has to become a brawler now.
Mm-hmm.
And that fed perfectly into the persona of Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Right.
For sure.
And because can you imagine Stone Cold Steve Austin not wrestling that way? I can't.
Yeah, if he's a high-flying guy, it's not the same.
Top rope drop
Doesn't feel the
kicks.
same, yeah.
See,
It wouldn't be the same.
That's the thing that a lot of people that maybe only know Stone Cold as Stone Cold don't realize is how athletic he was as a wrestler. He was a extraordinarily good wrestler before he kind of had to change things around. And it's interesting, too, because, as much as we hate the injuries as to what time it shaved off of his career or what other elements of Stone Cold we would have gotten, if it wasn't for the injuries that he had also, it didn't create the persona. Because,
Right.
I mean, there's the infamous
We'd be
thing
having
where...
a different conversation.
Well, there's the thing, too, when he got to ECW, and he was hurt, and he couldn't wrestle.
Right.
So, and Paul Heyman was smart enough to be like, you know what? We're just going to put you on camera, and you just go. And that's where the rattlesnake, the Stone Cold, was starting, because he just had to have this attitude. And all he had, he was pissed off. And again, when you're pissed off, a real part of you comes out. The part that maybe a lot of people, that you don't always necessarily can access, but it came out. And he was able to develop an attitude. And then that attitude was able to spawn a new character. And then, of course, with the other injuries, it really shaped everything that happened. And, the great wrestlers, guys, when you look at them, they're not your high flyers all the time. The greatest wrestlers in wrestling aren't always the ones that get the spotlight. A lot of the great wrestlers, again, John Cena, 5 moves of doom. Does that mean that's what John Cena is as a wrestler? No, we've seen plenty of matches where John Cena would flex his wrestling acumen and would show everybody that this dude could really fucking work if he wants to. But that's not also the role of the number one guy.
Right.
So.
Well said.
Thank you.
Agreed.
So all in all, great show. I mean, it was what it was. There were no bad matches.
Just bad fans.
Apparently, really some.
Nah, I'm just kidding, Boston. We love you. We love you, Boston. Make sure you listen a couple of times to this episode.
A couple of times, but I really liked it. That's why I really wanted to cover it, because I feel like it is the most important WrestleMania of all time outside of WrestleMania 1. I don't.
Yeah, for a number of reasons. One, it was sort of changing of the guard, right? Like we said, Michaels wouldn't wrestle for 4 more years. He thought he was done forever. It was really the true start of the Attitude Era. WWF would drop their classic logo and replace it with the new Attitude Era logo with the white scribbly lines, and Austin McMahon feud would start a few weeks later. The re-evolution of DX would start Monday Night
Next
Day.
day.
The next night.
Because now all of a
With
sudden,
Michaels out, Triple H is
because
the
all of
number
a
one
sudden
guy.
Triple H is like really important now.
Yeah,
Right?
Really
so
important.
they introduced the DX Army,
Yeah.
bring in X-Pac for the first time, Sean Waltman, bring the New Age Outlaws into that. So a lot of things were changing in the WWF at that time, and obviously for the better. It was a really fun time to be a wrestling fan.
It was a time to be so not busy on a Monday night that you could sit and watch Raw and Nitro. And no one was going to be like, "Whoa, you got to do that." No. This is my time to sit and watch.
Yeah.
Well, and think about how, too, as you mentioned that, right? Like how dedicated you really had to be to that. There was no YouTube.
Nope.
You weren't watching video clips online.
Nope.
The internet was barely just a thing at this stage.
Barely.
Very
Very early internet. You didn't have a DVR.
Nope.
So you're not recording Nitro and then watching it the next day or vice versa, right? You had to pick.
Well, you do what I do. I would just pause record and just switch between channels.
Yeah. Well,
Custom tapes.
I always got really happy in the summertime because they would replay Nitro at like 2 a.m. and like I would fall asleep and I'd wake up and like watch it for a couple hours even though I wasn't supposed to. Like I just got downstairs and like had the I'd set up real close to the
Yeah,
TV.
it's real low, so Jimmy Mack didn't hear it.
The volume was real low. I was real close to the TV. I always told my family, well, it's really hot upstairs because we didn't have air conditioning upstairs. We just had the window unit that was downstairs. I was like, so I'm just going to sleep downstairs. So I had everything set up, and then I'd sneak into the kitchen. I would get it because we had potato chips at the house. That was our snack. And I'd just put a couple different types of potato chips in a bowl, and I'd just sit there at 3 o'clock in the morning and just snack and watch Nitro and kind of get caught up on what's going on there too.
Yeah.
So it was a great time. It was a great time to be a wrestling fan.
Yeah. One thing I made a note about is, man, do I miss the closing WrestleMania recap videos that they used to do. Because now it just cuts off like at whatever, whoever wins the last match, it's a close up on them. It's like, we'll see you Monday night, and then it shuts down. They had a recap of every match afterwards, and I was like, man, the logistics of pulling that off live, it's impressive that they were able to do that. I wish they would get back to it.
It's funny that you say that because there was another thing that pulled at my heartstrings a little bit. It was the disclaimer, wrestling is not a joke video that they had in like the middle of the pay-per-view, where they had like 6 wrestlers like, I'm a 4-time Gold Gloves.
I love it.
I'm a national champion at the University of Miami. I'm a guy. And then like, my knee's been blown up. I've worked, I'm damn near broke my neck, like.
Not damned, but I still got up.
And they're just kind of showing us like right at the end, it's like, do not try this at home. And meanwhile, Jones Jones is like going to fucking try all this at home.
I'm going to do it anyhow.
There was also a promo that they did. I think it was a little over halfway through the pay-per-view. It was an old black and white video of like
the old time
classy Freddie Blassie and Gorilla Monsoon. Basically the passing of the torch.
Yeah.
Like, this is what it used to be in my day. This is what it is now.
Yeah.
I thought that was just really cool. Like because they were realizing it in the moment that wrestling was changing. And they wanted the fans to be on board as they were, as, we were the guys, and now those are the guys, and we're here for it, and you should be here for it too.
God, I miss Gorilla Monsoon.
It's like the genesis of their whole marketing campaign now. Then, now, forever.
I hate that. I hate it so much.
Jeff just said it, and you're like, yeah, this is great. Gorilla
I hate
Monsoon.
that.
And then I say it, and you're like, fuck that.
No, I hate that.
I said it different.
They didn't say that then now for bullshit. I hate
I know.
I hate it.
They just said it without saying it.
Yes. I don't need them to fucking say it. God damn it.
But yeah, this is awesome. This has been a great episode. It's always fun going back to these old wrestling shows. And it's fucking WrestleMania week.
It is.
We felt deal. This particular show was an important one to talk about. So any closing thoughts? Last thoughts from you fellas?
Shawn Michael did a kick-up with 2 compressed vertebrae and one that was shattered.
Yeah, his ability to compete at such a high pain level is fucking impressive.
He did a kick up. I can't get up off the floor at my age right now, and I don't have nearly those kinds of injuries, right? Like yesterday, I was sitting on the floor at a friend's house, and I tried to get up, and I was hoping nobody was watching me because it just felt awkward. And that motherfucker with three broken vertebrae basically did a fucking kick up in the middle of a match in front of 19,000 people.
Listen, when he turns it on, he turns it on. Closing thoughts, great show. It was fun. It's WrestleMania. And it's just beautiful seeing how many stars were being made that night. And again, a year from then, how things are so very different on the landscape. All of these characters. You know, a year later, Rock and Austin are doing their thing. So it was a good show, and I'm glad we talked about it. It was a good year. 98 was a great year.
Agreed. Speaking of great years, what were you guys doing in 1986?
Being 4.
Playing Legos, I'm pretty sure.
So you weren't watching Sylvester Stallone as Cobra?
You know what? We had HBO, so probably accidentally I might have.
I hope. I feel like no one's actually watched this movie before.
Well, guess
A
what?
lot of people may not have watched it since. Why do you bring it up, Jeff?
Because we're going to fucking watch it, and next week we're going to fucking talk about it.
Oh, shit.
You know, we've spent our last few movie episodes talking about really good movies that we really like. So we're like, let's go back and talk about some shitty 80s action flicks. And why not start with Cobra?
Oh, man. And not like G.I. Joe Cobra. Like, you're not going to turn it on, and nobody in the movie is going to go, Cobra!
No,
Might have been better if they did.
I actually have a note, I actually have a note where I think they probably should have done that in the movie.
So join us next week when we dive deep, so deep, into the 1986 not-so-classic film Cobra, starring Sylvester Stallone and Bridget Nielsen. Are you going to do it, or what?
Nothing good.